Welcome back to the Fanspeak Network. And today is a very special episode because in just a matter of days, Underdog will be launching the pre-draft contest, big board, little board, all the things. We're guessing sometime this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and we want to be ready. So today we are going to, they've dropped the rankings on Underdog. So we're going to go through it. We're going to talk about free agents, rookies, coaching moves. We're going to talk about all the things, who looks too high, who looks too low. So we are prepared the minute it drops. We're going to do all that in just 1 minute.
Fanspeak, where the plan runs deep. The team grind hard, don't eat, don't sleep. From best ball dreams to DFS streaks, they help you print money every single week. No cap, no gimmicks, we breaking limits. NFL bets, yeah, we live this business. Meg and Steve, that OG vision. Draft room killers on a lifelong mission. More stress to the Sunday spread. Fanspeak's that voice that's inside your head. Best ball, DFS, NFL bets. They built it brick by brick, no regrets. Fanspeak team, printing money since day one. Fanspeak, forever.
That's right. Fanspeak forever. It's time to get back in the best ball streets. Who Hames is ready. Mike Rob's ready. Bruni's ready. Let's get in. We are so back is right. Good to see all you guys. I'm here for the punch and pies. I was promised a punch and pie in the email. That's so good. Paul's here. We're all ready. The gang's all here. Hopefully get more. If you're watching on Twitter, come over to the YouTube streets. Hit that like button. Say hi like the rest of the nice people. Best ball and calls here. It's like checklist. Roll call. Roll call. Back on the grind. Exactly. No, so we appreciate you obviously coming in. Hit that like button. If for some reason you're coming in, you're not subscribed to Fanspeak Network, this will be the home of best ball content pretty much every single day. We still are doing in-season content. Link in the description for our Substack, but make sure you are subscribed on our road to 1,000. Steve, let me talk for one more minute. Could you retweet the tweet that I just did that we are live so people know we are live and hopefully can join us because we're going to have good conversations today. We are going to talk about a lot of question marks as we launch, as the big board is about to launch this weekend. You know, a lot of coaching changes still to be decided. Even the ones that have landed coaches still waiting to see who their OCs and the rest of their staff's going to be. Obviously, you look at the quarterback list and we're only confirmed give or take 24 starting quarterbacks. There's going to be a lot of quarterback shuffling still to go, shuffling the deck, or maybe moving chairs on the Titanic, depending on how bad you think the quarterback situations are. But, there's a lot of shuffling at coaching, at quarterback. So big question marks. Then we got to talk about rookies. And this is the guy, my friends, to talk to about rookies. Not only did he place fourth in the big board last year in 2024, but he's been scouting rookies since 2012. He used to go to the Senior Bowl, scout and cover the Senior Bowl live from 2012 to 2020. He has solely been responsible for me being obsessed with Sam Laporta, 2023. Let's see, BTJ wasn't a good season this year, but was a great season last year. And Lad McConkey, 2024. Again, not a good sophomore season for them, but he nailed it on the rookie freshman. And of course, my sweet Cam Scatabo, who I believe is ranked at the beginning of the fifth round already this year. He is solely responsible. I follow his picks rookies picks blindly. You should too. And that'll be part of this process too. We have a lot of that to talk about too. So, and then once we talk about, coaches, quarterbacks, free agents, rookies, we'll talk who looks too high, who looks too low. So that when it drops, we are ready to attack and take advantage. A couple more hellos. We got DJ Quill. What is up to you as well? We got Chad Candles. Good to see Chad Candles, the morning streamer. I'm sure if you're watching this, to check out Chad Candles in the mornings, crushing it in the morning streams. We have never been more back. And Hulk Smashed Potatoes, good to see you. Hey, as well. So Mike Robb and Paul says, in the video Hayden Davis dropped 45 minutes ago, Hayden says a new contest was dropping any minute. Oh, okay. And that was 45 minutes ago. Thank you for this inside knowledge, Legion. We appreciate that. Mike Robb giving Bruni a hard time. It's happening. So Steve, check. If it could be happening as we talk, who knows? We might be able to rip one. I don't know. I just was assuming Saturday or Sunday based on kind of what it was last year and kind of just hints that you heard from other streamers. So I was guessing Saturday or Sunday, but wow, if Hayden says something's coming, that's any minute. That is very, very, very interesting. So anyways, Steve, let's talk about, though I will say, do you think there's some kind of showdown? Because, okay, let me just pull it over before we get into it. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but I looked at rankings and I asked Steve as we were going through the rankings pre-show to plan. Let me bring it over here. Because, I feel like they'll wait to do the big board after this lock. Okay, so you see, obviously, the conference championship for the battle royales and all this stuff, which hopefully you watched Andrew and Justin last night. And maybe we'll do one for fun later, battle royales and all those contests. You see the pre-draft, which we are excited to talk about, obviously. But then you see these like showdown type stuff. Wonder if something's happening for that. Thoughts, Steve? And Steve, I haven't even let you talk yet. How are you doing?
Doing good. Very excited for the rankings and that best ball is back. I do wonder, because you can do those like head to head, I think you could do those, just they don't have like tournaments for those. So I don't know if they're going to drop anything else with that. I think they're just going to stick with the battle royale and wildcat and all that stuff.
All right. First of all, big thanks to Kix, Bears fan like Bruni, in our Discord, in our Substack. Appreciate you as a loyal sub, and then drops a $10 super chat here. Appreciate you guys. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. That is so, so kind. This has been a fun season interacting Discord. We're going to start promoting Discord more widely so we can get more people in there chatting, and then hopefully more people will sub to the Substack too, because we're going to have rankings for all the different formats. We're going to have rankings hopefully by the end of the weekend here for Big Board. But as you know from last basketball season, rankings for every format on Underdog and then DraftKings too. So covered there. We cover it on articles and we cover you in season. Of course, we still do have an in-season slate here coming Sunday where we're going to have, already have stuff for Underdog rankings for Battle Royale, for DFS, NFL bets. We'll have 2 betting shows tomorrow, 4 p.m. prop party with Steve, Tyler, and I, 10 p.m. Andrew is a basketball coach. 10 p.m. The Degen dads are back in the streets. So still getting you that in-season content, but we will. I did the Ross pivot gif, and we are pivoting to basketball season, and we will have you covered. So we appreciate you, Kix. Thank you for that super chat. That's awesome. So yeah, it'll be interesting what is dropping. I did find that interesting about the rankings. Okay, Steve, I haven't even let you talk yet. How excited are you? And then we will get into it.
No, I'm super excited. This, like we've been waiting for this. We knew it would come around this time, but yeah, to get the rankings out ahead of time, we can already start looking at things. We're going to be posting our own rankings, but it's interesting. You and I talked a little bit this afternoon when we were made aware that the rankings came out, and started, just talking back about some of the things that we're going to talk on the show. And look, I mean, I get it. There has to be some sort of initial rankings. Yeah. But I think you can find some edge there. And there are some areas where it can look like an edge, but it ends up being really risky. Right. And look, I mean, people last year, for instance, like when this started last year, Justin Fields was ranked super low. Nobody knew if he'd get a starting job. He gets a starting job. Then it looks like an absolute steal. The reality was it wasn't that big of a steal. He had some big weeks, a couple of big, garbage time weeks in week 1. But, sometimes that ends up fool's gold. And but other things, like everyone at this time last year thought Travis Kelce was retiring. I mean, I was taking, Noah Gray, as a late round pick. Travis Kelce was basically undrafted, and he ends up being, tight end 7 on the year, like tight end 8, something like that, like absolute value there. So, those are the types of things where right now there's edges, and, I would say not go full in on some of these things. I know a couple of people last year, like, finished drafting the big board by like the combine, and that is probably a little crazy. Because these things are going to change. We're going to get more information, not just from, rookies, but free agency, coaching changes. And the other thing is injuries. Like right now, we're hearing different things on like Malik Neighbors. Like some people say, he might not be ready to start week 1, even though he had like one of the earliest injuries. Yeah. So, those are the types of things that we're going to get more and more information throughout the process. But I definitely want to take advantage of some of these early looks, but I just would caution to go to the extreme. Don't go to the extreme. Don't draft like 50 drafts in the next week. thinking you're getting some massive edge when it might just totally evaporate.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, honestly, like best ball season, right? We've seen winners of the BBM come in every month, basically every kind of time frame. I kind of like to do the same thing for big board, try to get some early edges, but then also gather more information. And then, like you said, some of it's going to be fool's gold, some of it is going to be real, some of it's going to be a little bit of both. Like, remember, people were drafting Tez Johnson, and he plummeted after his 40 score. Well, ended up, he had some usable weeks because the Bucks were just depleted at running back. So, because I remember thinking all those Tez Johnson shares I drafted earlier were totally dead. They weren't totally done. It didn't end up helping me enough, but yeah, it's just interesting. So I kind of recommend it like most. I think you either want to barbell it, as people say, and do a beginning and end kind of, and then you're getting the two different information, like more like ADP edge at the beginning, more information edge at the end. Or I like to just do it kind of steady throughout, probably more weighted to the middle end for sure. So first thing we're going to talk about is coaching changes, Steve. We'll talk about coaching changes, quarterback starters fairly quickly, because we do want to spend some time on rookies. Because again, I think you're the rookie whisperer. I know you're the rookie whisperer, and you do have a good eye for scouting. You have done it literally for years and years. So coaching changes. We are still waiting to see. Ravens hired Jesse Minter today, but still obviously need to find out what the offensive coordinator situation is going to be there. We still need, Titans have hired Robert Saleh, who's going to be the offensive coordinator there. Dolphins have hired Jeff Hafley. Did I say that right? Who's the offensive coordinator there. And then you still have 5 major head coaching openings. And is it going to be an offensive coach, or are they going to need to bring in a new offensive system? Big question marks with the Bills, Steelers, Browns, Cardinals, Raiders, who are going to be the head coaches and, then offensive coaches there. So how do you handle that here in these beginning drafts? Like, I don't think you're totally going to stay away from, if Fernando Mendoza falls or anything like that on the Raiders, just because you don't know, what the situation is, or you're, but someone like Josh Allen does go early. Do you kind of want to wait before you grab Josh Allen shares? And the Steelers, we have absolutely no idea like what their veterans and offense is going to be like. So I think every team's zone beat. Browns stink, but they have some talented players like that, like Judkins and, I just blanked on the tight end, Fannin. And then Cardinals, you've got really talented players, but you don't know who the quarterback's going to be. So, how do you
don't know the offensive coordinator? Drew Petzing is a big tight end guy. He's now with the Lions. Right. People said this all along. Why McBride? His system favors the tight end, and if their next system doesn't, that could end up being more of a negative. And not just the teams you mentioned, but there's other teams. Like, who's the Eagles' new offense coordinator? As we've seen, when they get a good one, Jalen Hurts and company are incredible. When they don't, they're both. Hurts was still fine, but like everyone else took a an absolute bath this past year. So I think these coordinator situations are very key as part of everything else. And you mentioned Josh Allen. I think I'm not worried about him. Like he's, they've had multiple coordinators there, Dorsey before Brady, and then of course before that Dable, and he's been a top 3 quarterback every year for the last 6 years. So not worried about that. But Hurts is one. We'll talk about it. I don't know if you want to bring up the ranking so we can start talking about it.
Well, let's talk about this, and then I'll bring up.
But Hurts is one who he fell in rankings, and here's the thing, like, you're getting him like 30 spots lower than you got him last year. That's multiple rounds. And if he gets a good offensive coordinator, his value probably goes higher, because I know there's questions like, does the tush push get knocked out? But he used that less this year, and he ran in general less. This is by far the lowest he's run, because Kevin Petula did not know how to utilize his player's best weapon attributes. So, I'm going to say like Hurts, and he was pretty healthy. A healthy Hurts next year can fairly easily outplay his current ranking. So I think there's some value there.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I think there is some value there, and we just had to hope they actually get somebody who is capable of calling an offensive system.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention Eagles as one of them, obviously replacing, because like you said, it's been like every other year. They had an amazing OC with Steichen. Hurts is awesome. Then a bad one with Brian Johnson and company. Then an amazing one with Kellen Moore, and then a bad one with Kevin. So if they get a good one, you're definitely going to want to take advantage of this Hurts price. obviously if they don't, then, but I mean, right now, I think that's a risk we're taking. I assume for like the Dolphins, Titans, Raiders, you're fine, or Ravens, excuse me, you're fine waiting to kind of see what the offensive coordinator develops and still attack those offenses. What are you doing about, besides Josh Allen and the Bills, about the Steelers, the Browns, the Cardinals, the Raiders, where we still don't even know who their head coach is going to be? Well, how are you handling those situations?
Well, and a lot of these Raiders, we generally know it's going to be Mendoza, but Browns and Steelers, we don't know the quarterback. And
we don't even know the quarterback, yeah.
And, that's a big thing. Maybe Mike McCarthy gets the Steelers job and Aaron Rodgers is back, so we at least would have some semblance of, certainty with DK Metcalf. But, and we'll talk about this, Malik Willis is considered one of these guys who could end up with a starting quarterback. Well, do you think Malik Willis is good for DK Metcalf? Probably not.
Yeah.
So
I feel like we're playing with way more unknowns this year with quarterbacks, coaches than we ever have starting the big board season. Undoubtedly.
Because quarterbacks also dictate the entire offense. Like the Raiders, they have the best most talented tight end in Brock Bowers, this phenom running back, but their O-line sucks and their quarterback plays awful and they just can't generate an offense. And so these guys who were, turn picks, in Bowers and Genty had no chance to pay off. So for a lot of these situations like Browns and, Judkins is also returning from injury. So there's concern there as well. But like Judkins and Fannin, they're pretty high up there in the rankings and we have no idea the coach. We have no idea the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a risk. It's not, drafting these guys at the turn like the Raiders were, but for them to pay off is going to be tough.
Browns, Steelers, and Cardinals, unless like the guys fall farther past their ADP. I don't know that I'm comfortable even with me, I'm a late round tight end girl anyways, but even the very talented Trey McBride, I don't know if I'm comfortable making big stands on it until I know who the quarterback and who the coaches are for all of those teams. Like you said, Mendoza's situation with the Raiders is a little different. We know the pieces around. We assume they'll improve the offensive line. We just need to hope that Tom Brady and company put a good head coach and install that. So let's talk quarterbacks now, but let me hit the chat really quick. We'll get to rookies shortly here in a minute. Brennan Thompson, Steve, is going to be this year's Tootin. Any thoughts on Brennan Thompson?
Yeah, I mean, he's a receiver, Mississippi State, speed guy, like is mentioned here, big time play guy, breakout year. He did nothing before this year. He was kind of
that usually worries you a bit though, right?
It does. I will say he started at Texas, then was at Oklahoma. So he was on these really talented programs and just couldn't separate. Goes to Mississippi State, gets to be the guy, and he showed it. So, but he is going to be a guy because he's smaller size, 5'9", maybe comes in at 5'10", but his combine metrics are going to be more important to him because he's not going to high point balls. He's not going to, be this big physical X receiver. He's going to need to find a role, and he very well could. But to the comment point, he needs a big combine. He absolutely does.
Who Haim says, when did they put it? Just, I think, dropped today. And shout out to our Discord for making us aware. And then it was kind of like the Office gift. Oh my God, it's happening. I'm sure I'll have the same gift reaction when the big board actually drops. But yeah, it was so exciting to see it. And honestly, Steve and I, and this is a good time to mention this, we're going to do a show about lessons learned. Well, we're going to do a tape show that'll be up on the channel by Saturday, kind of just like an evergreen, lessons learned from 2025 and what we want to apply to 2026 basketball, just in kind of a short and sweet, but evergreen show that can kind of remind us all, including ourselves, of what we want to keep in mind as we go through the pre-draft basketball and, of course, basketball season this year. So look for that on the channel Saturday. But we pivoted because we were like, oh my gosh, the rankings are up. We need to react to this. Let's react to the coaches, the quarterbacks, the rookies, the free agents. Who's too high? Who's too low? That's how we, prepare our brains, because we're going to be working on rankings this weekend. So Kicks hadn't played big board and wondered how long. Yeah, it basically is going to be a massive contest that, as Who Haim's answer, stays up right up until the NFL draft. So it's basically launching essentially this weekend through late April. We've got Crossface in here. Great to see you as well.
Just wanted to add to Kix's point. Last year, the big board did not fill. It came close to filling, did not fill. They had a little board one that filled in about 2 months, and the what was it, 25? The War Room, that was a $25
Yeah.
I think 4 max that filled, I think a little after that. So
So how
what
many
the other
little boards
contest,
did they do last year?
they
So
did
big
low
board was
board 1 and little board 2.
low board 1, low board 2. So that's $3 price point. They did the big board stays open the whole time. Like Steve said, just fell short of filling. Then they do like the higher stakes ones, like the bigger board, the biggest board. And as Steve mentioned, the War Room, those are kind of the better advanced rate contests to keep an eye on because these are pretty tough. Big board is, I think every year has been, once you got your pod, 1 to 10, 1 to 10.
Yeah.
To big finals, which you were had an amazing finish in 2024. So yeah, Who says didn't expect May to start that high. We're going to jump into quarterbacks here in a minute. Good to see Tim H in here. I'm heavily targeting Malik Willis based on these current rankings, and yeah, we're going to get to that in a second because there are so many quarterbacks that seem to be going later that we still feel like are going to have a starting role. Baker Mayfield being the biggest one that we'll get to in a minute. Fannon's range of outcomes seems super wide. Agreed, because the Browns, and we don't know the quarterback, and we don't know the offense, and we don't know the coach. So we got Suss Edwards in here. Great to see you, Suss. It's so strange seeing half these prospects bounce to a different program almost every year. Oh, the college prospects. I mean, that's got to be something different as you've scouted since 2012. And watching the scouting process, it's like it's changed so much because, like to Suss's points, like they're changing programs every year, right?
Yeah, no, and it can. I mean, in general, I think it's a good thing for college prospects. It allows them to get opportunities. One, they can maybe stay an extra year and get more seasoning. We've seen that help a lot of guys. I mean, look at Mendoza. Mendoza, if he stay at Cal, he's not going to be the #1 overall pick.
Right.
But, he gets to go to Indiana and, of course, has this amazing run for the Heisman and national championship. So it is interesting, but it is tough because sometimes you don't know the behind the scenes, like why wasn't a guy like Brendan Thompson, more effective? Now, the reason is, Texas and Oklahoma are bringing in receivers every single year that also start to get ahead of him. So he needs to go to a spot. He finds a spot. It pays off. But yeah, it can be tough.
Yeah. Your lips to God's ears, Legion. If they had some pre-draft superflex, let's get after
it. They had that 2 years ago.
Did they have that? Yeah, you're right. They did have that 2 years ago. Yeah. You're right. And then Hulk mentioning they waited to drop the little board 2 days before the draft. So yeah, so
it'll 60% filled.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what is released when, but we know in the big board, the $10 one, which was $10, we're assuming will be the same as the one that stays open the whole time. And then there are other offerings, but that would be amazing. And they used to do rookie sophomores pre. I do like it better after, since the landing spots. Better after. But yeah,
this okay. It's going to be real tough.
Let's get into it. Quarterback starters. We don't have 32 of them. Let's count with me here. We've got Josh Allen, Drake May, Lamar Jackson, Caleb Williams. We'll get to high-low in a minute. Justin Herbert, Jackson Dart, Trevor Lawrence. I'm trying to count. And Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford. That's if he doesn't retire after, riding off into the sunset. Patrick Mahomes coming back from ACL, but still obviously counting him. Dak Prescott, Bo Nix coming back from injury, obviously. Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield. Not counting, he will start. So I'm counting like we know they're starting for this team.
Yeah, Tyler we know Shuck, where they're starting.
Yeah, we know where they're starting. Tyler Shuck, Bryce Young, I think I'm up to 20. Sam Darnold, 21. Fernando Mendoza, let's count him because he's going to be starting for the Raiders, 22. CJ Stroud, he stinks, but 23. Cam Ward, 24. I mean, you could count Daniel Jones. I don't know, give or take on that. I mean, obviously, that's another injury, but like, I don't know if it would just be a stopgap until he's ready. Let's just count him 25. The rest, you don't know if JJ McCarthy is truly starting. You obviously don't know the situation with Penix. And then these guys like Kirk Cousins and Brissett and other rookies and Malik Willis and who was higher, Kyler Murray. We don't know where they're going to be. So I really don't. And some guys like, is Shedeur Sanders going to start for the Browns? Is Marcus Mariota going to get a stopgap role? Does Rodgers retire or come back? Does Tua go somewhere else? Does yucky Deshaun Watson come back? Like we have all the Anthony Richardson. Like there's so many question marks. 25 is the official count of, you can say we know the starter for that team. That's it. So the way I'm handling until we gain more information is we know taking just automatic zero. I don't feel strongly enough about those late guys in the 200s that it's like, oh, I'm getting this massive discount. that I feel like taking a risk on it. Like, I want to know where all, especially it shocks me, the Kyler Murray one, I guess, obviously the rushing upside. Yeah, I get it. But he is currently ranked at 146, and we have, obviously he hasn't been impressive, and we have no idea where he's going, who he's going to, what his competition will be. So I'm not spending 146 on Kyler Murray. I can say that definitively right now until I gain more information. Yeah. Malik Willis, someone talked in chat, like he's going to, buy that and just assume he is going to land one of those 7 starting jobs. Because if we have 25 starters and, the rest are kind of open or bringing in competition, he's assuming that the Malik Willis is going to, and he could be one that rises because of his obviously rushing upside. I think you could make a case for that. I'll ask you that. But I like these other ones like Brissett, Cousins, Penix, JJ McCarthy situation. No, thank you. Rodgers, Mariota, Tua. I'm just going to wait and see. How are you handling this, Steve?
Yeah, no, I think, and I think that's a good point. And like you said, you mentioned guys like Mahomes, Knicks, I don't think is as concerning, or Danny Dimes. And, they might not be ready to start the year with Mahomes and when Danny Dimes got hurt. Who you mentioned, Dimes is technically a free agent. I don't think he gets out of the building. I think at worst it's a franchise, and more likely they agree to a long-term deal would be my guess. But he might not be ready to start the year. And that is crazy because, that just adds more uncertainty. Because right now we're dealing with their ADP. Like in August, we'll have a good idea of where Mahomes is, where Bo Nix is, where Daniel Jones is, when we're drafting then. And if those are the ADPs, then yeah, they could end up being good values at those spots, presuming they're starting the year. But right now we are just totally shooting in the dark. And so for these situations, you mentioned the Kyler Murray thing. Yeah, there's a chance he ends up in a better situation, but he could just end up back with the Cardinals, which then leaves Jacoby Brissett. Does he end up even starting, or is he just, Murray's backup again?
Who Ames loves the Brissett price at 200. I would assume he goes somewhere. I mean, there are literally feels like 7 openings.
He's under contract He's under contract though with the Cardinals, so
he'd have to be traded.
Kind of similar to Mac Jones. Like you can make a case Mac Jones is better than a lot of these guys, but if the 49ers don't trade him, he's not going anywhere. And I'm almost positive Brissett's under contract next year. Yeah.
Okay. So. Cooler says the good news for the early drafters is a lot of these names down the draft board don't have much appeal anyways. And I agree with most of that. Like I said, I'm just going to wait on those situations, wait in here. We got our guy Sia in here, was blessed enough to do 2 shows with Sia this morning on Early Edge, Sportsline, and Fantasy Football Today. We covered bets. We covered DFS for the championship Sunday. Be sure to check that out, of course, but love Sia. Love that he's in here. He says, y'all don't stop. Impressive. And Sia just hit I believe a first round leader I saw on Twitter. So congrats to him. And if you're in the golf streets, whether it's DFS or betting, have to be following Sia on Twitter and his content, of course, on Early Wedge and everything on Sportsline and on CBS and Sportsline. He crushes it in the football and golf streets, so make sure you are following. I want to get more into golf. That's one way I'm going to cope, Steve. I don't do well. NFL, you're looking at one of the ways I cope, it's NFL basketball. The other way I cope, I want to get more into golf this year. So, there was a tie, I believe. And I think it was Grazerman. Was it Grazerman? See if you're still in chat, let him know. But he, I think, got the first round leader. So we got Mr. Mufasa in here, GM family. Good to see you, Mr. Mufasa, GM to you as well. If there's those uncertain, cheap names you feel confident in about going somewhere, like who Hames feels about Brissett, like being traded or just being the Cardinals stopgap, maybe they draft someone second, third round, something like that, then I think, make your stands. It's like Tua's odds to find a name home as a starter, just not sure where. So yeah, make your stands. And everybody's going to handle this differently, right? Like, I think I'm going to do what I'll still do some elite quarterbacks. And like who Hames said, guys I love this year are now in the elite quarterback tier, like Drake May. And so I'll do some elite quarterbacks, but I'm going to probably love those builds where I do the 3 quarterbacks in those like mid rounds. Cause as we see, we will get into the too high, too low after we cover rookies and free agents. But as we see, there is a ton of, starting quarterbacks, and you can start all the way up here. In the 50s, you've got, Lamar, Caleb Williams, Herbert. but there are a ton of starting quarterbacks in the 70s to 120s that I have a lot of interest in. And then guys like Baker Mayfield that we'll talk in the too high, too low section that might be in every big board draft for me if he stays around 144. So, Steve, anything else about quarterbacks before we talk rookies next?
Well, I want to answer a question. I think it was Sus asked, is there somebody, where was it?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, hold on. Oh,
you uncertain cheap names you feel confident ending up somewhere. I like Tua's odds. I know home is started, just not sure where yet. Tua is interesting. I think if I'm going to take one, I think I'd say Marcus Mariota. He has some rushing upside. He's obviously been a starter in multiple places before. He's done fine these last 2 years filling in for Washington, and that's more impressive this past year when everything else was going wrong in Washington. So I would not be surprised if he ends up getting at least a stopgap starting job, or he's like, he's battling with like Shedeur Sanders or something like that in Cleveland. So I think he will probably end up like of some of these names, because like some of them, JJ McCarthy and Michael Penix, maybe they get a shot to start. But I just don't have a ton of confidence. And, I don't see Justin Fields starting for the Jets. They'd have to trade him or cut him. Gino, same thing. Jameis Winston might get a shot somewhere, but I don't know. And also, a guy like Winston, he also, I don't know if he would, but, he was drafted in 2015. He could retire. He would have a.
He was at Harbaugh's press conference. I think he's probably happy being that, and maybe he gets moved on, or something like that. But as of now, he was. I saw he was at the Harbaugh press conference, so I would imagine he's still playing. From all the interviews, I think he still wants to play. I think he still wants to start, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Contract for another year, I believe, but I didn't know the Giants would move on.
Smart that he was at the Harbaugh press conference though, because I saw him shaking hands and giving hugs.
But that's why I say Mariota, because Mariota is a free agent. Like Cousins will probably get cut, but we just don't know how that ends up. Some of these other guys could get cut or traded.
I mean, I think he'll be another prime candidate to land somewhere to be at least.
But that could be like he's filling in for Daniel Jones until Daniel Jones takes over, that kind of thing. Or he could go.
A lot of murky situations. I could totally see him being a stopgap in a team drafts someone in the fourth round or third round or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Cousins, I'm a little less sure.
I'm surprised that they're planning for that post-June or the June 1st cut. I assumed with Stefanski, he might be the stopgap there,
Yeah, Stefanski obviously knows him with the Vikings. I think that opens it up where he gets a chance to be on the market to see what his market's at.
All right, let me catch up with chat, and then we will move on. We're going to talk rookies and free agents next, and then get into the most important thing. Who's too high? Who's too low? Get your feedback. See a hit. Pearson Cody, a 25 plus 2,500 split with another guy. That's awesome. We're talking about the Brissett contract. And a nice hit to Sia, and smashed because Mike Robb said, let's remember to hit that like button. Would hate for bad karma to fall upon you. As Sia says, like smash. So yes, please hit that like button. If you're watching on Twitter, come over to YouTube Streets, say hi to all these wonderful people. We're Best Ball Sickos. We're ready to get back in the streets this weekend. We are prepping. We've already talked coaching staffs and all the questions and how we handle that. We talked obviously QB starters. We only feel confident about 25. How do we handle that? Now we're going to talk rookies, and that's Steve's sweet spot. Free agents, and then the too high, too low. But thank you, Sia. Thank you all for joining us and hitting that like button. Do these rankings let me ask a couple questions, and then we will get to rookies here. Do these rankings want you to lean more or less into 3 QB builds? I know I will have some Jaden, Jalen if they both stay in the 7th. I'm always a 3 QB girl. I'll answer this quickly, and I know Steve feels very similar. Always have been, always will be, quite honestly. Results have honestly proved that. I don't need to see data, but I think data is now showing that. Obviously, a lot of the RTAs were pushing people to 3-peat quarterbacks this year. And, Steve and I were like the Michael Scott gift, finally, or the thank you, slamming the table, thank you, because we've been doing the 3 quarterback builds basically since the start of playing best ball. And we've had real results where we've made the playoffs, we've made the finals, because we drafted 3 quarterbacks. And we saw this year, whether you have a quarterback like Mahomes who had a great year and then gets injured at the end, or you have a situation with a quarterback that's just banged up throughout. A lot of people look at quarterbacks way too black and white, like either they're injured and out for the season, or and I don't want them, or and I don't want to draft them, or they're going to play all 17 games. I need to draft them. There's a lot of gray. There's a lot of nuance and a lot of gray to quarterback starting. I don't have the stats, but I know in prior years, usually averages like 9 or 10 teams have their quarterback start all year. Do you have any numbers on that for this past year, Steve, or any guess? Wasn't many. I mean, there was
I could figure it out. The point I'll make is, I mean, you brought up Mahomes, Daniel Jones is another one. Both these guys, up until the point they were injured, were winners for you, right? They were huge values. They're absolute winners for you. Then they get injured, and you don't have them in the playoffs, and even in full season format like a marathon or drafters, like missing those games and being down a quarter. If you only have 2 quarterbacks, is going to be problematic. But the most perfect example is Brock Purdy. He was the absolute number 1 quarterback in the playoffs, best ball playoffs, and he missed a ton of time. He had 2 different injuries, re-injured, and missed a lot of time. And so I just think it was a lot harder to get there.
That's who Sam Sherman had in the BBM, right? And it was amazing because he had Bryce Young and he had somebody else who was out for a good bit of time. Oh, he had Russ. Oh, no, Tyler Shuck. Thank you. Yeah. No, so very impressive that he was able to get enough overlap to make it. And then, but like Purdy was the nuts. And Purdy, like you said, Mahomes Mahomes and Daniel Jones are the prime examples of they can help get you there, but then they're gone. They're gone. So having 2 other quarterbacks at the end of the season in playoffs, especially if, they helped you advance. Now, what are you going to do? You want 2 other guys to, get you through those like gauntlet weeks of 15, 16, 17. And then, Purdy's the perfect example of not a good advance rate piece, but my God, did he smash in the playoffs. And if you pushed a Purdy team through to the playoffs, and having 2 other quarterbacks will certainly help that, because we know it's not hard. You have to be, 2 of 12 in most of the contests. So always a 3 QB girl. Steve is a 3 QB guy, always have been, always will be. And especially then, big board in this format is 20 rounds. So I'm not going to do I don't care, even if I did Jaden and Jalen to Paul's point. And then, Paul, by the way, we are passionate about the 3 quarterback thing, but I love this question. I love that you brought it up. Even if I did Jaden and Jalen in the 7th round, I'll tack on a Tyler Shuck or something, someone later. I have no problem with that. Maybe that's where I do take a risk on a rookie, or like a Mendoza, or just somebody a little more, competing or something like that. But I don't see myself leaving really any 20-round best ball drafts without a 3 quarterbacks. Any other thoughts on that before we get to the rest of the question?
The other thing I wanted to mention is, and this is also 20 rounds, but also even at the start of, when BBM launches and first puppy, until we know bye weeks, that's the other thing. And sure, I know you had a team that had like all 3 quarterbacks have the same bye. But that will happen. That can happen. But when you only have 2, you even worse chances of not having a quarterback due to bye week overlap, and actually 2 from the same division. Well, it doesn't always happen. There are always some times where 2 divisional teams have the bye the same week. Particularly in weeks of 4 or 6 bye weeks. So you just probably run a greater risk. I don't know the actual math on it, but from, every year there's a couple times where it's like 2 teams from the same division have the same bye, and you'd run that risk, and then that would just be even worse in my opinion. You're running a greater risk at that opinion. Why I agree those are 2 great values. It's like tack on a, Marcus Mariota, or as somebody else mentioned, a CJ Stroud, a Cam Ward, just tack them on to your Jalen Jaden build, and you're just covered. And also, the other thing is Jaden and Jalen are 2 quarterbacks who've not shown the ability to stay healthy. And let's be honest, I mean, what quarterback does? I mean, Josh Allen, yes, he started every game, but they already said he's going to have like off-season procedure, most of
not many. I mean, I think it usually averages only like 8 to 10 a year start every game, like whether it is some kind of benching or change or injury or short-term or long-term or season-long injury. It's usually like 8 to 10 start every single game. So to me, it just feels like you're playing with fire. We got our guy, Tim D, in here. We will cover this tomorrow, Tim. We know you're a diehard Pats fan. We're rooting for your Pats. And yes, I do think McDaniels will cook up a good game plan. I like May stacks, but we got 2 shows tomorrow. Prop Party, 4 p.m. Degen Dads, 10 p.m. Be sure to check that out. We will talk everything conference championship there. Penix might not be ready. I don't believe he will be either, right, Steve?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, so that's another one, not touching until I get more information. I think year two, Cam Ward is a decent buy low from our guy Coolers, who, by the way, be sure to join our Discord. Again, I'm going to start putting it out there more on our articles and Twitter and that kind of stuff, so more people can get in and talk with us, because you get sharp people, like Mike Robb, like Who Haynes, like Coolers, just dropping in just awesome nuggets. And I agree, Cam Ward year two, I think, is a good buy low. Hulk Smash Potatoes agrees that Cousins could stay with Stefanski. Cooler says maybe the only QB scroll down near the end I like so far at first glance, as far as the year two Cam Ward. ADP Stroud would be a buy too. I'm not a Stroud girl, but I understand the ADP is 170, so I get it. Tim says Kyle Pitts at 41, tight end 3. No, thank you. That's how I feel too. I'm kind of right there with you. Definitely agree with this Who Ames comment. Assume QB gets pushed up pretty fast this year with everybody kind of on the 3 QB meta. I agree. I think that's why we're seeing the rankings already jumping out higher. And then I think as ADP shift on actual ADP movement from drafts, I agree that I think that's going to happen. Cosign from Hulk, and Who Hames agrees, heavy on the 3 QB in early drafts, may slide to 2 QB if that happens. So I think a lot more will do 3 QB, because that I think this year was the kind of first year we saw that be more the meta of best ball. And I think then results kind of showed it. I mean, again, Sam Sherman's team, no way you would have seen playoffs without a third QB, who his third QB was Tyler Shuck, so.
Yeah, and Tyler Shuck filled in for the bye because both Purdy and Bryce Young
had a week 14 bye. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've talked coaches, we've talked quarterback, Steve. Now we're going to talk your expert topic, and that's rookies. Let's scout with Steve, folks. I'm gonna go over here, and you can obviously, again, you probably know this if you've watched any Fanspeak shows, read any Fanspeak content. Again, Steve's been scouting since 2012 and has covered the Senior Bowl live 2012 through 2020. Saw your first Senior Bowl was Russ Wilson, Kirk Cousins, the aforementioned Kirk Cousins, Nick Foles, as we're talking about Super Bowls, the backup quarterbacks that could win a Super Bowl, and Kellen Moore. Any other memories from your 2012 Senior Bowl, Steve, before we get into rookies?
Yeah, no, I mean, just tremendous experience. All those years going down to the Senior Bowl, and just a lot of fun. Got to interview so many great players. Probably the all-time best player. I mean, he's clear Hall of Famer. And I interviewed him multiple times, one-on-one, and as part of press conferences was Aaron Donald.
I forgot you interviewed Donald one-on-one too. That's amazing.
Just, I would never want to be an opposing offensive player against Aaron Donald, but one of the nicest guys to interview, and just have a whole host of stories like that. Just some great interviews. I actually remember interviewing Jacoby Brissett.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
What year was he 12? No.
15. No.
Okay. Was that the Dak year? Dak was there the one year. That was 15,
Dak was
right?
there. So plenty of great memories. But yeah, get into the rookies.
Sometime we'll have to have a Senior Bowl story time, but we definitely need to talk rookies. But again, Steve is the rookie whisperer, in my opinion, and I think his results have proven that. Taking fourth in the big board 2 years ago, or 2024. He got me on Sam Laporta in 23 before anybody else mentioned it. He got me on, again, BCJ, Lad McConkey early last year, and of course Cam Skattebo this year. Steve, I won't ask you who's your Cam Skattebo yet. Let's just talk some of your favorite rookies and kind of highlight where they're going.
Yeah, so this year quarterback is probably the worst we've seen since the Kenny Pickett year. With Dante Moore and some others coming back to school, and just others not, no one ever thought they were coming out. It's a thin year, and Fernando Mendoza is, it would take almost a miracle for him not to be the 101 pick this year. And I think he's a good starter, though he is obviously limited college experience. Behind that, Ty Simpson might be a first rounder. I think that is a stretch. He only started 1 year in college. He's behind Jalen Milroe. And then it's anybody's guess how the quarterbacks go after that. Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss, great story, but this guy is literally suing the NCAA every which way he can to try and stay in college. So doesn't seem like he's probably the most NFL ready. He is a dual threat guy if he were to get into the mix, but probably more like a project, right? Like a Milroe type.
I assume no Ty Simpson for you, because even though he'll go first round, you don't really think he's quite NFL ready, correct?
Yeah, I think he'd have to have the absolute perfect landing spot, and I would almost guarantee that somebody is starting ahead of him.
Yeah.
You know, even if like the Steelers were to take him at the end of the first round or something like that, like I don't think he's starting next year.
So I'm sorry, McGowan is ranked by PFF. But where do you think McGowan goes? As a couple people mentioned,
right now he's probably a later round guy, but he's a running back, Seth McGowan. And
okay, my bad.
Running back is wide open this year. Like we'll get to that in a second, but you know, if he's he could be a big combine warrior and really boost his stock.
All right, so actually, let's go position by position with the rookies. Make it easy. So basically, I assume the only quarterback you're really drafting in big board drafts is Fernando Mendoza going number 1 to the Raiders. Am I guessing correct on that?
Yeah. I mean, you know, just that's the way it's looking right now. Obviously, had you been early on Dart last year, that would have worked. I mean, nobody was taking Tyler Shrek at this point, so those guys were the better ones than even Shedeur Sanders, who most people were. You know, and me included.
Any thoughts to these comments? We got Flyfish in here. Good to see you, Flyfish. Thanks for joining us, Mendoza, Daniel Jones 2.0. And our guy Cooler says, only watch one game. Maybe I'll fade this guy. Then I'm definitely fade this guy. He's got a lot of Russ and Kirk Cousins vibes in the interviews for sure. So how do you answer this question?
I mean, they're built very similarly. Both have some rushing upside. Both have similar skill sets. I think Mendoza, one issue that I had with Daniel Jones, speaking to guys who are at the Senior Bowl, is he just did not look confident. He even in press things.
Really, even in interviews and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I said that at the time. He just had no confidence.
I remember you were lower on him than the market. That 19 draft.
And you know, I think sometimes you need to have like some confidence, and Mendoza has confidence and he believes in himself. And I don't know. I'm a Mendoza believer. I think he can be good. Raiders, I want to see him with a good coach. And this is the thing that I say all the time is, you know, these guys, like, why do we see a second act and sometimes a third act with all these young quarterbacks, high drafted quarterbacks who are quote unquote busts? Coaching, sometimes it's the guy, sometimes it's the player, but coaching becomes so crucial. And even some people who we think are good coaches, like look at a Brian Dable, you know, Daniel Jones. He wasn't Daniel Jones' first coach, but he, you know, was going to resurrect Daniel Jones. Doesn't work, but Jones spends like a minute under Kevin O'Connell and then goes to Shane Steichen. Yeah. And, you know, for the first 12 weeks last year, looked incredible. Yeah. And, you know, Baker Mayfield, you know, Stefanski, everyone.
Which, by the way, I cannot wait to see the first Atlanta versus Bucs game. That Baker Mayfield tweet was epic. I loved it. Go ahead.
But same thing. Like Stefanski couldn't, you know, the supposed offensive genius, couldn't figure it out with Baker, and they trade him off to Carolina so they could get Deshaun Watson, and you know, Carolina cuts him. He signs with Sean McVay, then goes to Tampa and, you know, gets some really good coaching and revamps his career. Sam Darnold, same thing, goes to San Francisco, then Minnesota, now Seattle, just again. So coaching is going to matter a lot. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Raiders do there. They also need to fix their offensive line, but Mendoza does have a lot going for him. Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, assuming they don't trade Mayer, are the best 1-2 tight end punch in the league. Genty can be a stud running back. We saw the flashes of that. They got some young receivers in Tucker, Besh, and Thornton. I'm sure they'd bring in somebody else, ideally a veteran there, but you know, that's a lot better than say Cam Ward had this past year. So you know, Mendoza could maybe hit the ground running, but so much is going to be key on what the coaching staff situation is.
Yeah, and I am anxious to see who the Raiders hire, and that could determine how much of Mendoza. But I'm totally fine talking about the 3 quarterback build as a Mendoza as a third quarterback.
Well, at least we can count him as a starter. Like even Cam Ward, it didn't take until the very end. They had to have a coach fired. They had to do a lot, but Cam Ward had some usable games down the stretch.
But I like that it's going to be a fresh coaching staff with Mendoza. So I do like that, and I'm in on Mendoza. Okay, let's go position by position. Rookies that you're targeting at the running back position. I'll type it in as you say. We know about, obviously, I believe, 2nd round ADP of Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. Why don't you talk a little about him? That's like a no-brainer. But do you think end of 2nd round is right for him? So talk about that.
Honestly, I will say I think it's a little high without knowing where he's landing. Look, I think
but we were almost a round higher on Genty last year.
Yeah, and that showed that a bad landing spot, you don't get the value there. Like, that your touchdown opportunities, he's not running late in games because they're down by 20. Like that, Genty should be definitely the canary in the coal mine for somebody like Love, because Love is going to be a top 15, top 20 at worst pick. Big physical, talented runner, no doubt. I mean, I've seen people comp him to like a Jonathan Taylor. I think that's a very fair comp. But you need Jonathan Taylor to be on a good team. We saw when the quarterback went down, what was Jonathan Taylor? I mean, he was getting 15 points instead of 35 points. So, so that high, it could work out. Like if the Chiefs draft him, then yeah. Okay, sign me up. But if, especially with Bieniemy back as the offense coordinator, but if he goes to a bad offense, then I'd be very wary. So I think it's a little high. I'll take him some, but I don't want to be too overweight on him until we know where. And
then you'll react during best ball season accordingly. Yeah. So answer this question from Who Hames: better prospect, Genty or Love?
I think Genty, Love definitely played at a higher level, just played it against more quality teams. And that, but he had so much more talent around him. Genty was very little top level talent around him. So I think Genty is the better prospect, but Love to me is a lot like Hampton. And that's why Hampton, even after the Najee, some of the eye injury stuff, was Hampton was only going in like the 40s. So to me, it's a little shocking that Love is so high. And
Cooler says in regards to Love, once you look at the ADPs of the next 6 or 8, you can poke holes in a lot of ADPs, which is absolutely true. And that's what makes this thought experiment so useful. And again, we'll have rankings out, hopefully right around when the big board is launched. And those are probably going to be very fluid, both with movement and just us like digging in more in that kind of stuff. So sometimes it takes a lot of reps to get that right. But we are going to try to have rankings out. Paul says Mendoza appears to care less about his well-being than Dart. Doesn't slide. It was a beautiful touchdown though. Any thoughts on that? He's kind of not the runner that Dart was, kind of more of a, how would you comp him as a runner?
Daniel Jones. Like that's why I like the Daniel Jones comp. I just think I think he's a little bit more confident.
Okay, so more confident Daniel Jones. I like that. All right, so now let's talk about before we get to more questions, let's get to your other running backs. Jeremiah Love is the one we know going in the first round. Do you think there are going to be any other first round running backs or more day 2? Okay, so who are the day 2 running backs and which ones do you like?
So I think the day 2 running backs are probably the second running back taken is going to be Jonah Coleman from Washington. I think
ADP 109 currently. Go ahead, or coming as it launches.
Yeah, I think Jadarian Price, Love's backup for Notre Dame, is very highly regarded. He's probably more the 3rd rounder. And Emmett Johnson from Nebraska.
What was the first name?
Emmett Johnson.
Okay. ADP 139 for those. Okay.
And then is the Penn State conundrum of Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. 2 guys who have just gotten a ton of usage in a combined backfield. Both have multiple 1,000-yard years. Both are very good running backs. I kind of project them both to be like third, fourth round picks. And that's roughly what I'm seeing like in, consensus big boards out there, like maybe even slightly lower. But what we see here in Underdog is a big difference between the two, where Katron Allen is
119, I think, give or take. Katron Allen was 119, and right now single. So there, we found a couple of these, and if it stays that way, that's something you want to keep an eye on and take advantage of. But Nicholas Singleton does not currently have an ADP, so that's something we want to keep an eye on. Definitely, the Singleton's the one with more pass catching chops, right?
Yeah. But both have some ability there. Both are kind of similar backs, and that's a bigger physical. Singleton is weird. Like he's like 220. Again, we'll see what his combine measurements are, and these college measurements are never near accurate. But he was this past year, and Penn State was obviously not as good this past year. Big goal, short yardage, but also good catching the ball. So I think both have potential big roles at the next level, and could at least be a team's number 2 back. And so the big gap in ADP is something I'm very much going to be taking advantage of early on.
Yeah, let me get those other day 2 here in the queue, so you can kind of then talk through who you like at their ADPs. Could you hit me with the other names again? I believe Coleman was one of them.
Coleman, Emmett Johnson, and Jadarian Price.
Emmett Johnson, and so you think any other day 2? I mean, I know that some guys can always slip into day 2 that you don't anticipate, but as of now, these are kind of who you deem as that you have ranked and that you deem as the day 2 guys.
Yeah.
Of course, you could see others.
Yeah. I think there's some interesting names that I want to follow, like Hemby from the national championship Indiana team. He was previously on Maryland.
In there either, which is interesting. Go ahead.
Claiborne from Wake Forest is probably like a 4th round pick, but maybe he sneaks into the 3rd round.
What's his first name?
Damond.
I didn't see Claiborne, so that's why I didn't know. Am I spelling it wrong? Damon Claiborne. There it is. I was spelling it wrong. Okay. Anybody else that could sneak in? There's always guys.
Yeah. So
nobody had RJ Harvey ranked as a 2nd round prospect.
Exactly.
So there will be guys that shoot up and sneak into the 2nd round. There will be some of these guys like our sweet Cam Scotabo that fall, early day 3. Let's just talk about these day 2 guys. You've got obviously as far as ADPs, they're kind of mostly in the late 90s, early 100s, but then you've got Claiborne late and Singleton and Hemby not ranked. Let's talk about the guys that are ranked though. Jadarian Price, Katron Allen, Jonah Coleman. What do you think? What do you think about those ADPs in the 95? Is that somewhere where you will have them ranked around there? Are they buys?
I would probably have. I think Coleman ends up being the 2nd running back taken in the draft.
I can't move it for some reason. It's open to go ahead.
But I think Emmett Johnson, he's a guy, he had a huge breakout year with Nebraska. I like his speed, his frame, his ability. I think can be the whole package. So he's a guy I think is going to be very popular. Would not surprise me if he becomes an early starter on a team. So the fact that his ADP is kind of the lowest of this bunch, not counting Singleton and Hemby, makes me very intrigued by him.
Okay. Anybody else in this day 2 range that you could see being overweight on, or obviously ranking above their current ADP?
Yeah. So Price it's interesting. Look, we see plenty of teammates. Last year was the Ohio State teammates. We see this. Yeah. Most years there's some combo. And Price, I get it. He was behind Love, just could never separate. We saw that argument with Roshan Johnson and Bijan Robinson a few years ago. Price is better than Roshan, but I'm surprised he's top 100. He's probably a 3rd round pick, might be a 4th round pick. But I don't know if NFL teams are going to just give him the starting role the same way. Some of these other guys, like I think like a Coleman or an Emmett Johnson could be a clear starter. Either one of the Penn State guys could be a three. Like Nicholas Singleton probably could be a 3-down back. That's why I'm shocked that he's undrafted.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Any like kind of day 3, but you could see a case for them, getting steam through the pre-draft process, through the combine, the testing, the interviews, whatever, that then could be either make their way into day 2 or a day 3, like a Scatterboo that you want to be, kind of overweight on.
Right now, no.
Okay.
I think it's kind of a weak running back year, and that's why a handful of these guys could separate themselves. And
there was a comment about asking a specific question about that. Tim H says Singleton has some speed too, could be a combine monster. Singleton is going to get love from UD drafters. Coolers agrees with you, likes Emmett Johnson quite a lot, more so at the fake ADP. We got Al Boogie here.
I would not be surprised if Emmett Johnson, like I think right now Jonah Coleman is the number 2 back drafted. It's not going to shock me if come end of April, Emmett Johnson ends up being the number 2 back drafted.
Yeah, we got our guy Al Boogie in here. Great to see you, Al Boogie. Hell yeah, it's a big war time. We got to get ready. Anybody drafted by the Bills, I'm out on. And let's see, there was a specific question in here, not including Jeremiah Love. Does Steve like this running back class better than the 24 class? So who's the 20?
The 24 class was weak, for sure.
Okay. Who remind me who was in that class?
Well, the guys who succeeded were guys like Bucky and
right.
Tyron Tracy and stuff like that.
Who was the early drafted though? Like early real drafted, real life.
Well, that was the issue. Is the top guy drafted was
Jonathan Brooks. Yeah,
Jonathan Brooks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. So you like this class more than the 24 for sure, but right or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's a lot of second and third rounders, kind of the same as that class.
Okay.
So
not counting Love, which class do you like better?
I'd give the slight edge to this class.
Okay, well that doesn't sound. Yeah, I thought it was like kind of in between 24 and 25. It sounds like it's way more. It's bad. Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, last year was obviously very good, and some obviously with injuries like Scatterboo, and others didn't see it, or some just because they were buried in the depth chart. But that's good to know as we keep that in mind. Who Hames is interested in Terrion Stewart. Let's see. Emmett seems to be the favorite. Let's avoid each other in rooms. And yes, I definitely forgot Jonathan Brooks and Benson. It'll be interesting. Who Hames says Brooks no ADP. What the reports are. I know there was some coach speak, about Brooks, but I don't know. If you have any thoughts on how to handle that early. I want more information on how he's doing, probably.
Yeah, I just don't think can take him. I mean, we also don't know, like, Hubbard's still under contract. Did they bring Rico back? Sure, they could cut Hubbard, or they just might keep both. And then Brooks has literally no path.
Yeah. And then, then we got to see, what happens to these second year guys like a Taj Brooks, who we like so much that didn't come to fruition, what happens there. All right. It doesn't seem like there's many other, we covered the rookie running backs. Now let's talk, let me clear the queue and go over to receiver. A lot more there. Let's start with the main overarching question. How do you see this receiver class? What receiver class do you compare it? Is it closer to the 2024 receiver class that was absolutely insane? Or is it closer to this year? Like, what would you compare this rookie receiver class to?
I actually compared to the receiver class that's about to hit free agency. Was at the 23 or 2022. I'm sorry, 22 class. The
London.
It's the second rounders that are hitting free agency: George Pickens, Alec Pierce, Wan'Dale Robinson, etc. But the first rounders that year, Jameson Williams. I'm sorry.
Drake London, right?
Yeah, Drake London. Jameson Williams would have been the number 1 receiver taken, but he tore up his knee in the national championship game. So he still was a first rounder, but it was, you have Drake London and Garrett Wilson kind of leading the group. Chris Olave was in that class. But that also had, like, I bring up those second round receivers who were free agents. because you had really good depth. You had second rounders who could hit the ground running. Unfortunately, Sky Moore was in that as well. Sorry, Hoohames. But I kind of view it as very similar to that. Like there's a lot of, I think, starting wide receivers in this class. Now, are they like absolute alphas like a Malik Neighbors type? No, I don't think so. But I think you've good starting wide receivers in this class through the first 2 rounds, and even into the 3rd round. You know, right now it's dependent on where these guys are. But so I think it's a deep, you know, good kind of solid 12, 15 man receiver class in the first 3 rounds. And if you get the right situations, you can have some really good starters.
All right. Name kind of first and second rounds that could potentially
at the top of the board. The battle is probably going to be between Jordan Tyson and Carnell Tate for the top receiver taken. Tyson from Arizona State, banged up at the end of the year. Carnell Tate also banged up a little bit, but Tate, you know, just the pedigree that Ohio State has in producing receivers. You know, we just saw with Mbuka, see with JSN still in these playoffs. Like I mentioned, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, etc. Tate's not even the best receiver on his team at Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith is, but Tate's a first-round caliber receiver in his own right. And I think he and Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, who obviously doesn't have the same surrounding talent, but I think both these guys probably get drafted in the top 10 picks, top 12 at worst.
Take it down from there.
Then you have the next group, Mekhi Lemon from USC, Denzel Boston, Washington, Kevin Concepcion from Texas A&M, Chris Bell, Elijah Surratt from the National Championship Indiana team.
Wait, what was the name for the Bell? Chris Bell?
Chris Bell.
Okay. And then Surratt, which I know you're a fan of, Elijah Surratt, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris Brazell from Tennessee.
Spell the last name.
Brazzell.
There it is. Okay, a lot of no ADPs for some of these Concepcion. Yeah. So we'll get to that. Keep it running.
Zachariah Branch from Georgia.
Okay.
Jeremy Bernard from Alabama.
Am I spelling Jeremy wrong?
Definitely. Just do Bernard.
There. I was definitely spelling Jeremy wrong. Okay, go ahead. Anybody else? And I assume you're working to the 2nd round now.
Oh, yeah. These are well into the 2nd round.
Okay. Keep it coming.
Omar Cooper from Indiana, Jacoby Lane from USC, Skylar Bell, UConn had a massive year.
Who was the USC one?
Jacoby Lane.
And the last one.
Did you get Omar Cooper?
Yes.
Oh, Skylar Bell from UConn, and Antonio Williams from Clemson. There's some others who could be third rounders. Brennan Thompson, who
was the one from last one?
Antonio Williams, Clemson.
Antonio, where are you? There we go. Oh, yeah, a lot of no ranked here, so that'll be interesting. So does that kind of cover first, second rounders?
Definitely. That goes into 3rd rounders for sure.
Okay. So this is kind of day 1, day 2 receivers. I tried to do them fairly in order. So I'm going to read them out. And we do have some, and I know, you do big board rankings. So like you have Concepcion ranked, I think, in the 20s. Obviously unranked ADP. We've got Jordan Tyson at 48 ADP, Carnell Tate 51, Lemon 63, Denzel Boston 76. No ranking for Concepcion. Chris Bell 147. Surratt 98, so not all perfectly in order here. Chris Brazell, no ADP. Zachariah Branch 181. Jeremy Bernard 176. Omar Cooper, no ADP for him, or Skylar Bell. Jacoby Lane 128, no ADP for Antonio Williams. So of these first, second round, who do you think are like your most confident first round? Tyson, Tate, and
Lemon and Boston should all get. I'd be surprised if those 4 are not first rounders.
Okay, what about Concepcion and Surratt?
Concepcion, Bell, Surratt are
potential.
Could all sneak into the late first. and if not, early to mid second.
Okay. So now let's talk ADPs. Obviously, Concepcion, being that he could sneak in the first round or early second, seems like maybe we take advantage of this if there's no ADP for him. But who else at their ADPs are you, let's just talk, want to be over the field on based on their ADP, or when you finish your rankings this weekend, are going to have a higher ranking than their ADP?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely very bullish on Chris Bell and Surratt. I think Surratt, he didn't break 1,000 yards. He came with Signetti from JMU to Indiana these past 2 years, had 2 really good years. But he's a smaller Mike Evans, and wearing 13, definitely helped in that comparison. But he's an outside receiver. He can play big slot. He is tremendous at contested catches and back shoulder catches. So I think he also is the type of receiver we want in the NFL. He easily can stack double-digit touchdowns. And Chris Bell is another one. Louisville had a nice year. Chris Brazell from Tennessee. Now, Tennessee has a bad track record of receivers, as we know, but he's the latest, the 6'5", 200-pound, big physical speed guy. He's very intriguing to me. But he's a bit more of a raw talent. But the fact that he doesn't have an ADP, one guy who I think is interesting is Jeremy Bernard, Alabama, good size. He actually outplayed Alabama's, his name's escaping me right now, phenom sophomore receiver. And Bernard was the better receiver for much of the year this year. So I think that speaks, he came from Washington. He was buried at Washington depth chart. But I think he's got a lot of upside. So, once we get into this mix, I mean, these are, you're tacking on as your 8th, 9th receiver type guys. But there's some value there because some of these guys, I know this year, those guys didn't hit near as much, even though some got some really good landing spots like a Kyle Williams or Jack Batch. They just didn't get the run out there we were hoping for. And there are some guys like nobody was drafting Kamari Dike, and he ends up, and even Io Manor, who was drafted some, just because they actually got more opportunities on the Titans, ended up a little better, and a few other later round rookies or later drafted rookies at the start of big board last year. So, you don't want to take 6 of these guys on your team because there's so much uncertainty there, but taking 1 or 2 shots of the guys who Concepcion definitely will end up with an ADP. My guess is his ADP will be somewhere between Boston and Surratt's, probably in the 80s. So right now it's massive value. And
so how are you really, let me interrupt you on the Chris Bell situation. Towards ACL, having surgery, is where do you stand?
From what I saw, is he was expected back.
You mean like he'll be ready for essentially.
So that is one to watch, and why he's we'll hopefully get some more because this is the thing. Speaking of guys, that's what I thought with Torrey Horton last year. It wasn't ACL, but he was very banged up, had like a surgery, and it was like, is this guy going to play? I remember when we did this show last year, I said, he's a talented guy. I just don't know what his injury status is. And, he ended up getting bumped up and rose up ranks. So, he's one I'll probably end up being lower on until we get more information on. So I wouldn't take him he's not a guy I'm taking really above ADP, but I might sprinkle him a little bit, depending on how that injury.
All right, let me get some questions and then let's get a summary on receivers before we move on. There's only, 1 or 2 tight ends to talk about, but Jeff Cooley, good to see you. He says, if he declares, where would Miami's Fitzgerald rank? And I know the declared deadline, I think, is tomorrow.
I don't think he is going to declare. I haven't really looked at him in consideration.
Because you think he's going back to Miami.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Couple other comments or questions. Flyfish says, looks like a bunch of Cedric Tillmans and Malachi Corleys. Yeah, a lot of comments on the Concepcion and Brazil no ADPs, perhaps something to take advantage of. Great comment from Mike, A+ comment. As he says, A+ content. Steve holding back laughter while semi-helping Meg with her tech frustrations. Always A+ comment. We appreciate that. I'm definitely going to be always good for that. Coolers, I'm curious to hear your opinion on what the ceiling for first-round receivers would be, as in how many get drafted in the first. So you kind of broke it down. I kind of asked that. So you said definitely Tyson, Tate, Lemon, Boston, with the potential of Concepcion, Surratt.
Yeah. Like Chris Brazell, he's like 6'5", 200 pounds. He could run like a sub 4.4, probably not that, but I think his combine number, a team could fall in love with him.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. And so we answered that question. We talked about Chris Bell. They're saying he'll be ready. Yeah. I'm guessing it was a clean tear or something if they feel like he'll be ready. Hulk says Bernard is a grown-ass man. So wrapping up the wide receiver rookies, and then I'll get to this, a good comment from Tim H, off topic, but just noticed Juwan Jennings, the ADP of 137. That is very interesting given where his ADP was last year. Definitely surprising. So of these receivers that are going day one, day two, and especially the first rounders, like in summary, like if you had 3 or 4 favorites, I know Surratt's one and going right now, starting ADP 98. We'll see where he kind of goes, but I know you really like Surratt. Who are some other ones that you really like? Like 2 years ago when it was a very good draft class and you wanted to leave drafts in the big board. And by the way, you left drafts, I believe, in your big board I believe didn't have BTJ, but BTJ, Ladd McConkey, those were some of the receivers you were high on. Who are some where you're like, oh, this is this year's BTJ, Ladd McConkey. Like wherever they're going, if they're going mid to late, I want to be overweight on having that. So Surratt, I know, is for sure one.
Yeah, I would definitely say Concepcion. We'll see what his ADP ends up being, but like I said, my guess is it'll be in the 80s, and I think that's good value for him.
Okay.
So I think he does sneak into I think he ends up being in the first round. Denzel Boston, I think, is good. He's very talented, had a nice couple years at Washington. I think, again, kind of a lock for a first round. And this year is different than last year's first round. Last year's first round was weird where, T-Mac, we knew what he was. Hunter was this hybrid. And then you were talking yourselves into Mbuka, who goes to a crowded room, and then Golden, who goes to a crowded room and also had never shown to be the guy in college. Where these guys have.
Right. Okay. So Surratt, Concepcion, Denzel Boston, any others of these first, second rounders?
I love Jordan Tyson and Tate. I think these are very, very good receivers. Lemon is more of he needs the right system. He's a good slot. Obviously this guy went way lower in the draft, but he reminds me of ASB a bit. But ASB went 4th round. Lemon's going to go in the first round. But he needs a good offense. He needs the right system to pan out.
So Tyson Tate going in like the 5th round, kind of like where the Tets went last year or T-Max went last year. How do you handle that? Is that something you think could be like a T-Mac and worthy of it? Or, I mean...
Yeah, I think they're both very worthy of it. I mean, and T-Mac kind of shows like he ended up being fine there. You probably could have done a little better, but the Panthers' passing offense was not good this past year, newsflash, and T-Mac was still fine. So Tyson or Tate end up with a Josh Allen, probably not. I mean, they're going to go way too high for that. But
gotcha.
We've seen teams, Julio Jones, the Falcons made a massive trade up to get Julio Jones. But we
don't know what Brandon Beane's going to be doing here. We don't know.
But my point is, if they end up with a good quarterback or a good offensive system, they could really, have big. I think they're very NFL ready. Is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think you've done a good job not only getting me on the right players, rookies wise, but you've kept me off the right players for that very reason. Like the Treylon Burks, the Xavier Legette's. you've kept me off them. Earmuffs, Mike, but you kind of said about Iomi and I mean, obviously he's still, was able to be a functional receiver, but it's not like he was like, as some people call the next Puka, which he was not. No. So, I think you've done a good job of like, this guy's NFL ready, this guy's not. And kind of, it's just as important to identify those guys that may take a couple years or may not ever be what we hope they be or what we want them to be. It's important to identify that just as much as it's important finding, the BTJ, Lad McConkey rookies, of course, Cam Scatabo, had he not gotten injured. It's important to find the good and the bad. So that's good to uncover too. Good question from Flyfish. Off topic, but how do you approach second-year players who you're high on as rookies but dudded? He said this is a Jalen Royals question, but I'll let you answer this.
Yeah, I think a lot ends up with what happens with the offense. Like a situation like Royals, we know what the quarterback will be. They got an upgrade, I think, an offense coordinator in Eric Bieniemy. And then what happens with the receiver room? I mean, Rice is in trouble again. But, I'm guessing Marquise Brown might not be back. Juju might not be. So he could easily go from being the sixth receiver. Thornton might not be back. He could go from being the sixth receiver to the third receiver like that. And so then, things can get real for him fast. But some of these other guys, great example last year was, both Odunze and Marvin Harrison drafted very similar, had very similar rookie years. And everyone was taking Marvin Harrison in the third, and Dunze was going in the 70s. Yeah. And yet he had a more upgraded offense. There was a little bit more competition, but you just felt I felt better about Dunze. And of course, Dunze gets banged up and is not great down the stretch. But for the first 6 weeks, he was like wide receiver 3.
Oh my God. I was so excited about my Dunze shares those first 6 weeks for sure. And definitely fell off, but yeah, absolutely. Mike Rob says, no. I am in her hate. He's the pook of my heart. We got Dark Side Dev in here. Great to see you, Dark Side Dev. Appreciate you. For instance, Flyfish said he went back to Troy Franklin with good results. That's a good shout out. Any rookies that you were high on that didn't pan out that you could see going back to, like who was your Jalen Royals that you could see going back to this year that didn't pan out this year?
Well, a lot is going to end up depending on free agency and coaching.
Yeah.
A situation at running back, one of the biggest misses was Caleb Johnson. But if they don't bring Kenneth Gainwell back and they get a right coaching system, Jalen Warren is not going to get 300 carries. He's just not. That's never been his game. It's not going to work out that way.
You might piss some Jalen Warren fans off, Steve. But
I mean, it's just true. Kenneth Gainwell outproduced him. But I don't know if Kenneth Gainwell is coming back. So yeah. I mean, I'm not going to take that until we see how that situation pans out. But in terms of some of these receivers, absolutely. I think we see with Jaden Higgins, he can be the guy. It's just the offense. He was, they just felt more comfortable with Xavier Hutchinson. Well, that's not going to be the case next year. Kirk could be gone. So I think Higgins is going to be in a better situation. Trey Harris, if Keenan Allen is gone, is obviously going to be in a much better situation. Some of those.
Who says that's yours? For sure. Hulk Mashed Potato says free Jalen Noel.
They both could be. If Kirk is gone and Hutchinson is no longer the threat, it could absolutely be those two guys after Nico.
Well, and I think we're spending time on rookies here because I know it's your specialty. I know you can help me and others with early big board drafts of who to stay on, who to stay off. But I think that's important to have these second year conversations too. It's great to see Dark Side Dev, who says Tank Dell. Seems like he's going to be back for the offseason program. That was a massive injury. So I'm
back-to-back massive injuries. I'm going to be pretty, out on, but
what is his ADP? I didn't even look that up yet. Does he, 158. Okay. So
high.
Okay. Okay. Any other thing before receivers, before we wrap up tight ends and then really talk the free agents and too high, too low? Okay. So let me clear this out. Let's talk tight ends. It's really just the Oregon tight end, right? Sadiq.
Yeah. I mean, Sadiq is the clear first rounder. There's going to be some probably more third round type guys. Third, fourth round is kind of the sweet spot after.
And you said, I think some of
maybe
them you said were ranked in the 200s. So what were some of those names?
Max Clare from Ohio State, Michael Trigg, Baylor, Stowers from Vanderbilt, Justin Jolly from NC State.
Oh, slow down. I can't. There it is. Okay. Anything else? I got Sadiq, Claire, Trigg, Stowers, Justin Jolly. Anything else there?
Right now, nobody probably worth mentioning.
Okay. So, oops, I just took him out of the thing. Okay. So of these, we know Sadiq's going round 1. You said these other guys could be like late day 2 guys.
Yeah, mid to late day, like late second, early third type.
Okay.
Maybe later third. So, I mean, right now, Sadiq's the only one I'm definitely going to take. 20 rounds, sure. Maybe I'll have a few shares of these other guys. Just because here's the other thing, and we'll get to this. Free agency, tight end's a mess right now. Like, it really is a mess. There's a lot of teams actually need tight end. But it's absolutely a mess in terms of what's out there, because you have situations like Likely, Okonkwo, some others that escape me right now. But I just think David Njoku. So there's just going to be a lot of moving parts at tight end. Like I mentioned before, new Raiders situation. I just don't know if they keep a second rounder. As much as I like Michael Mayer just sitting there doing nothing for this team behind Brock Bowers, like somebody might give up a third round pick for Michael Mayer or a fourth and a fifth or something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him moved. So that's absolutely shocking. As Dell's ADP is higher than James Conner.
Yeah. What is that's a good question. What is?
Yeah, it's about
162. Okay. Yeah.
So Sadiq, Oregon tight end, athletic freak. I think he's a first rounder, probably mid to late first round. Again, landing spot ends up mattering quite a lot for rookie tight ends, but we've seen it now 3 straight years. It used to be rookie tight ends, you can't trust them; they're never going to do anything. Laporta and Bowers went back-to-back tight end 1. Last year, Warner, Loveland did not get up to tight end 1, but both were very good for the stretches that they played. Loveland dealt with an injury early that impacted him some, but we saw how he was down.
He became the guy late. Yeah.
So, Sadiq is kind of I don't know if he's, and Loveland wasn't the most refined, kind of raw in the offense that he was in. So I think Sadiq is well worth where he's going to ADP, because that's roughly what we're getting Warren and Loveland. If he was up in top 100, no. And the other thing with tight ends is tight ends have been pushed up. I feel like there's more, you have the ADPs right there. There are 6 guys in top 70 picks last year that were not that. Hawkinson was going in like the 80s, and I think he was the 6th tight end. Laporta was going in the 70s, and I believe he was the 5th tight end. So, were those 4th and 5th? Either way, So I think getting 127 ADP for Sadiq is a good price right now.
Okay, so and I know earlier I asked for a comp for him, and you said kind of like a David Njoku, but is he one that kind of has to get a good landing spot since he's raw then?
Well, I mean, I think rookie tight ends need a good landing spot. I mean, if Tyler Warren was, look, we saw it with Mason Taylor, and granted he was an early 2nd round pick, but the Jets passing offense was as anemic as they come, and that's just not going to help anyone. We saw it with Michael Mayer as a rookie. And some others like Brenton Strange was a 2nd round pick, but he was behind Evan Ingram as a rookie. So landing spot's going to matter. Now, as a first rounder, we generally think they're going to be a clear starter, and they usually are, but landing spot means quite a bit.
So where Dark Side talks about Baylor, which one's the Baylor tight end?
Trigg.
Okay. What's your thoughts on him? If you because we know Ferguson was one, right? Am I getting that right? Ferguson killed the combine last year. Was he the Oregon tight end?
Yeah, it's Ferguson.
Yeah, Terrence Ferguson crushed the combine, gets drafted by Rams, good team.
Mhm.
I mean, doesn't make it, but it's an interesting conversation. If they crush the combine, they're likely going to rise. So what are your thoughts on Trig?
Yeah, no, I mean him, Claire Stowers, I think they're all in line for like tight end 2. And I think at least one of them sneaks into the second round. And he's, to that point, he's very athletically talented, and he didn't have great quarterback play in college, so that definitely didn't help matters for him. Like Claire is interesting. Ohio State has produced solid tight ends. Kate Stovers and Ruckert at least can hang around the league, and just their passing offense is better. Claire, I think, is an intriguing NFL ready tight end, but he's not as athletically gifted as Michael Trigg.
Okay, so I assume you'll draft some Sadiq at this price, but you may sprinkle some of these other potential options then.
Yeah,
but no massive stands, I assume, basically.
Yeah, there's just not the depth and upside that last year's class had, and some of those guys didn't pan out, like Ferguson, Arroyo. Others like Fannin was absolute steal for being a late rookie tight end.
Let's get into this, and this will take us right to. Let me just switch to. Well, actually, we'll talk free agents first, but this is a good question. I do want to follow up on. Who Hames said the late round tight end thing doesn't look as good at the moment. That has been my favorite thing. So if we're talking about my definition of kind of the mid to late round tight ends is kind of these like ADP 90 on, where I may get like 290 to 130s and then or 90 to 140s and then tack on like a third really late. What are your thoughts on this specific question, Steve, as far as the ADPs going like 90 on? Because, yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, more have been pushed up, and that's kind of surprising given the state of the tight end position, outside of Trey McBride. There hasn't felt like the payback on drafting early tight ends since the Kelsey and Gronk years. And you could certainly get away. The reason I always have a problem with the early tight ends is it is feel hard to draft 3. And we know tight end, I'm feeling it more and more, but they feel like they get injured a lot too, get banged up and get injured a lot because they're involved in so much, not just, running routes and pass catching, but blocking too. So I like drafting 3 tight ends, and it's hard when you spend, a second or third rounder on a tight end. So yeah, I struggle with that. And then, you walk into the playoffs and you have Trey McBride, he goes off 1 week, but as even in the Kelsey heydays, I know I had some Kelsey teams I loved in like 22, 23. And it's like, it was great, during the season. But 1 week it didn't typically go off 3 weeks in a row. And then you feel better. And that's why I like the oscillating of the mid to late round. So to answer Aim's question, I see what he's saying, but I still feel like there's a good bit of value of like ADP 90 on. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, yeah, but he's talking late round tight end. You're talking mid to late round tight end. There's a huge difference.
That's true. That is true. Mine, I usually do like a mid to late round tight end starting like the 90s, 100s. Yeah. So I'd feel very comfortable with like whether it's a Sadiq or Gadsden or Goddard, and then take a shot on Kittle being able to bounce back, or Ferguson or Hunter Henry, and then tacking on a late one like a Juwan Johnson or something like that. So that's how I see the mid, but yeah, I'm more mid to late round tight end. So if he's talking late round tight ends, like I'm guessing you're talking more like ADP, 170s on or something like that. I guess
probably everything after Dalton Schultz. Like Dalton Schultz is 157. So I don't know what exactly
right
you're talking, but
yeah, that does feel a bit thinner. I mean, anything that
I think there's a lot of unknowns here, and that's to Huheen's point. And some of this will get clarified. Like if Isaiah Likely goes to a place where he's the clear starting tight end, his ADP is going to rise, would be
right.
A great value. Travis Kelsey comes back for another year. Guess what? He's going to more than smash ADP 204. If the Jets get a actual quarterback, then maybe Mason Taylor is pretty good. But and we'll talk about this. And as somebody mentioned, now Juwan Johnson is grossly mispriced right now at 183.
Right.
He should be 133. He should be around where Ferguson's going. Jake Ferguson.
Yeah, sorry, it was Hulk said, 183, late tight end, not dead yet. And Flyfish says tight end feels way more efficient at first glance.
But yeah, so much is going to depend. Like, do the Steelers try to have 4 different tight ends again, or do they? Do they move on from Jonnu and it's just Freiermuth and Darnell Washington, who himself is coming off an injury? Who knows? Evan Ingram, that doesn't look good. Elijah Arroyo doesn't look good. I don't know. Like, some of these, I could see Chig is a free agent. Like, where does he land? Does he get a good spot? Gesicki, if they don't bring back Noah Fant, maybe they rely on Gesicki. There could be a smash value there. Like we saw kind of at the end with Burrow, he had some much more usable weeks.
Oh, yeah.
But so much depends on what they're doing on offense. So I think, to me, I lose a lot of confidence in the tight end position after Dalton Schultz. And so, the Rams, I don't think they're going to have 4 different tight ends next year. So I will probably feel good about Parkinson, Ferguson, but not great. So I think tight end thins out more than any other position. Where last year, you had guys like, particularly at this time, Hunter Henry was going like the 180s. Ertz was going like 200. Gesicki was going super late. Then you had rookies like Fannin and et cetera going late. So a lot we'll figure out. Like right now, I will say Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, they just said undrafted, and multiple people will mention. And Barners was around 149. But Gunnar Helm undrafted is interesting. Like you said, Chig, a free agent. I think you have to imagine Ertz that is would retire. I don't know.
But what happens in Washington? Because that becomes I don't think Ben Sinnott is taking the starting role. Like, he has been so bad.
Yeah.
Maybe they give him a chance, but like, that's an open spot. So if they sign somebody, if they sign Isaiah Likely, if they sign Chig, if they sign Kate Otten, that's a big role. Granted, it's a new offense coordinator, so we'll have to see what the philosophy is. But that becomes a wide open situation.
All right, so let's just take that right into free agents, which, by the way, but I hope everybody enjoyed talking rookies with you. I love talking rookies. Steve has a rookies article coming out tomorrow. He mentioned some of them, I'm sure, here tonight, but writing up kind of, 5 to 7 of his favorite rookies that he's probably going to really attack in early big board drafts. That'll be on the channel, on Substack tomorrow. Again, link in the description. Check that out. You're missing a lot, and it's just $34.99 for the entire year, not a month. So be sure to check that out. Link in the description. That article will be up tomorrow. Again, a kind of evergreen 2025 look back, 2026, 2025 look back, lessons learned. What do we want to apply to 2026 will be up here on the channel as like an evergreen show by Saturday. So check those 2 things out. Now let's talk free agents, and then like a too high, too low as we kind of set ourselves to work on rankings and sit with all this. So free agents, what are the, I'll bring over the cap and we can talk free agents, Steve, but start talking about free agents and which ones are kind of the most attractive to you as you wait to hear where they may go. So
I'll start at the quarterback position just because we touched on it a little already. Daniel Jones is a free agent. I think he's back with the Colts. In terms of other starting caliber quarterbacks, it's pretty thin at that point. And that's why Malik Willis is getting buzz. That's why I mentioned Marcus Mariota earlier. Tyler Huntley might get stopgap buzz. But unless Aaron Rodgers comes back, the free agent market you're not going to find a starter there. Malik Willis being kind of maybe the one exception, but it's a ton of unknowns. He started 4-5 games in his NFL career. Actually, I think he had 1 or 2 more, but it hasn't been too pretty overall.
Yeah, that's a good connection to say Malik Willis to Miami with the Green Bay coach. So that is interesting. Hey, I mean, I'd take Likely as a Redskin. I wouldn't mind seeing that going or Washington going after Njoku. I think it will be interesting to see what Washington does at the tight end position. But sticking with quarterbacks here, I mean, we've kind of talked about it that some, like you talked about, Brissett would have to be by trade. But these are the free agents. Which ones do you think, outside Daniel Jones going back, if Rodgers went back to Pittsburgh, or if Rodgers, if Matthew Stafford retired and he goes to LA, something like that, of these other ones, are there any that you would?
I think Mariota, and that's why I mentioned him before. I think he probably does get a starting job. And it could. I don't think it's back in Atlanta, but it could be in one of these situations like he goes to the Vikings because they don't trust JJ or something. I mean, I don't think that'd be Kevin O'Connell's first choice, but I think Marcus Mariota probably gets a starting job. Kind of like the 1 year, $10 million type starting job. But yeah, it's not much to talk about from the quarterback side.
All right, let's talk running backs then, starting with obviously guys coming back from injury from their current APY, Harrison Najee and Austin Eckler. Then you have Etienne, Javonte, they're both coming off great seasons. Dowdle, who people talked about in the chat, great shout out. Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker. Would have to imagine with Sharp's injury that they at least tag him and he stays with Seattle. Dobbins, obviously, if they go to the Super Bowl, maybe comes back, or maybe he comes back in a limited. You talked about Kenneth Gainwell. Breece Hall's a massive name. Nick Chubb on the downside of his career. What do you want to point out here as far as like targets to take advantage of?
Yeah, so I think this is an area where I'm kind of working under the early assumption that Javonte is back with the Cowboys. Seems to be a lot of mutual interest there. The Jets, like people have said, the transition tag teams can still sign somebody off the transition tag, so they'd have to franchise them. Not sure they do that. Same with Etienne. Rico, whether he goes back, Rashard White. There are multiple starters on this list. Now, I kind of agree with you. Kenneth Walker will probably be back in Seattle. That could be a franchise tag. And probably the name that I think is most interesting is Tyler Algier. We know what this guy can do when given the starting opportunity. He is going to be a free agent. He doesn't have as much tread in his tires as some other guys, doesn't have a major injury history, like say even like a Breece Hall does, or like a Pacheco. So I think Tyler Algier is going to be very intriguing where he ends up if he gets kind of like at least a 2-down role, because we know he has an end zone role. So for what we're looking for from Underdog, I think Algier could be the best value type guy.
I think
now it's ADP 141.
Yeah, no, that's a great shout out. How will you handle in these pre-draft before free agency? How will you handle the Javonte Williams, Rico Dowdles, Breece Halls of the world? Kenneth Walker, I'm going to kind of operate under the assumption they keep him, but I'm
treating Javonte kind of like they keep him. If not, he's definitely showed that he's kind of back. It took a couple years. He had a horrific injury. It took a couple years. He seems back. Breece Hall, I don't know. There's a lot of talk that the Jets want him back. If he's back with the Jets, I'm not that interested. That seems like just such a train wreck right now. I'm hoping Etienne's back with the Jaguars. I don't know if they will pony up for him. I think that's his best outcome. I want pieces of the Jaguars offense. As for some of these other guys, we'll see what they get. Like Kenneth Gainwell proved a lot this year, but I don't think he's going to be a starter anywhere. Rico probably could be a starter. Rashard White is probably a second back on some team. So at the right ADP, they have value. But that's why I wanted to mention Algier as the guy who is treated as an RB2 right now, but I think easily could pan out being a starter.
Okay, let's talk receivers. Let me sort it by current APY. Okay, was sorted. Obviously a guy like Mike Evans, I assume he only comes back to the Bucs only, I would assume. But okay, Jawan Jennings, I didn't realize was a free agent. And that's why it's good to look at this. People talked about his ADP being so low, so maybe it's because of the question mark not being.
But the 49ers said they want him back, and we know Brandon Ayuk is not going to be there. So
no, he is not. No, he is not. Thielen retired. Steve, you can't draft Thielen this year. I'm so sorry. And Mike, insert the old people jokes. Steve, going to the bingo halls. No, but Debo, Christian Kirk, Mike Evans, assuming he's back with the Bucs. Jawan Jennings, assuming he's back with the 49ers. I assume then you want to be over the market if they're if they're back with their teams, or how do you want to handle some of these guys? And then some are older guys like Keenan Allen. And
I mean, Keenan Allen stuff, he could obviously retire.
Sure.
But he also, he still played really well. And he could go to multiple teams where he actually has a better role, potentially. So that's a tough one to do. So some that are very interesting to me, like Mike Evans, like I don't think he's retiring. I know he's older, he's roughly the same age as Keenan Allen, but I don't think he's retiring, and it's going to be a crowded room. But if he's back, I'm going, I'll still be high on him just because we saw when he was out there, even with all the options, he was Baker's guy. I'm going to assume Zach Robinson, who comes from, the Sean McVay tree, comes from, that, and like they've featured wide receivers, whether it's Cooper Kupp, then Puka for McVay, obviously Drake London for Zach Robinson. So I think Evans could be that guy still. But it's definitely a different situation. The more interesting thing to me is some of these guys, like Debo, is he back in Washington or not? Where does he go? Look, he was very productive, and the team was awful. So that's promising that he could still have some productive years ahead of him.
Steve, look, you can sort by age, I hear, on Over the Cap. Is that going to be your jam?
And you absolutely can. But no, I really like. I expect George Pickens will be franchised by the Cowboys, and I think his ADP is, I honestly think he and Lamb could be flipped. That's the way it kind of played out. So at the very least, they should be close to one another. But you have a lot of interesting receivers, as I mentioned. That 2022 year, it wasn't just the first-round receivers. Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't know if he's back with the Giants. Alec Pierce, is he back with the Colts? I mean, Buffalo Bills should just send Alec Pierce a blank check, because they absolutely could use a vertical wide receiver to go along with Josh Allen. Alec Pierce seems like a good option. But Rashid Shaheed traded to Seattle mid-year. Didn't get a lot of run, but we've seen his upside, and I could see him getting a lot of interest if he hits the open market. Same with Romeo Doubs. I mean, he's been a very productive, consistent wide receiver for the Packers, and could end up being like a clear number 2 going forward. So those are some of the ones that I'm more interested in. And taking right now, because I don't know if their ADPs are totally reflective of some of this potential. Like Pierce has a high ADP, but somebody like Romeo Doubs mid-round, he could go to a situation where he gets a bigger role, and that's something that is definitely intriguing.
Where are you? So ADP now, like 151 for Tyreek. I mean, that was a bad injury. He's 31 speed guy. I mean, has there been any reports on his health, or does he,
I haven't seen anything.
I haven't paid attention to that at all.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have been burned in big board drafts of the guys that you're like, oh, they're going to play. Who was the speed guy from Texans? A couple, Will Fuller? Yeah. Oh, I was like, oh, he's going to play. I had so much Will Fuller the one year. And I was like, and I think that was actually not big board. That was like during the season, maybe. I don't know. I've made this mistake before of the guys like, oh, he's coming back. He's coming back. So I'll just say that while it seems like a deal, I'll probably, having dead roster spots sucks. And I'll probably, it worked for, and we see, especially with older guys, like it worked for the beginning for Keenan Allen. It worked great. But, the end of the season, it did not. I know that because I was on the wrong side of that. I definitely think I want to be cautious of older guys. Steve and I joke about that, but truly, and also of guys that like could just absolutely retire, like a Keenan Allen to me, or some of these injury guys like Tyreek. I'll probably tread more cautiously just because I have been on the wrong side of that too many times. And I don't know if I can remember many situations where I was the right side of like jumping the gun on an injured player or an old player that might retire. I guess I only remember, and this will be part of our lessons learned show that we'll have on the channel by Saturday. I just can't. Can you remember being on the right side of like he could retire, but it totally panned out for me all season. I'm not talking first 6 weeks for Keenan Allen. I'm talking all season.
Well, I mean, like I mentioned last year, I mean, Travis Kelce, like everyone thought he was retiring, and he didn't, and ended up as a top 10 tight end. So, I mean, he absolutely smashed his big board ADP.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. So Fly Fish says Kelce, you said Kelce. I'll probably err on the side of caution of the potential retirees and the guys coming back from injury. Who Aim says Tyreek is a player being overweight for value seems fine, but grossly overweight, just too much risk. Stop at like 11%. So I think that's good to put context to it. Like I want to be overweight, but like not like 25% or something like that. Other thoughts in here, every wide receiver, free agent, holdout refusing to sign with my Patriots last year. Who's laughing now? I didn't realize, I forgot that you were a Patriots fan, Paul. You and our guy, Tim D, plenty of Patriots fans in here, rooting for May and the Patriots for sure. The Amari Cooper run out was terrible.
This past year,
yeah, that was bad. Let's just say I've been more on the Amari Cooper side than I ever have like a Kelce side. But all right, thoughts on tight ends, and then I hear my dog losing his mind. So let's talk too high, too low.
What I wanted to mention about, we should also talk about the context of where they're going in drafts. Like Debo going at 126 right now is criminal. Like, why? I have no idea.
Well, why don't we get to that? Is there anything that stands out at tight end other than the potential retirees like Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert? I didn't realize. Like, what do you think about like the Njoku, Goddard's, Pitts?
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
That's what I mean. Like, there's a lot of free agent tight ends. Like, even if Ertz retires, among starters, you've Pitts, Otten, Kelce, Goddard, Okonkwo, likely Njoku as starting caliber tight ends. Higbee kind of, so there's just going to be a lot moving pieces, I feel like, in the tight end market this year. I want to, like mentioned already, like Cade Otton's ADP is just way too low right now. He should find a starting job, probably actually back with the Bucs, but I think he's way
and we're going to
low.
go through that position by position here, too high, too low in a minute. Also note that our ad on here, there is an announcement on fanspeak.com and allowing us to focus more on this Fanspeak network, Fanspeak Substack. Look for that later this week or early next week on Twitter. Very exciting and something we've been working behind the scenes. But appreciate over the cap here. Let's go over, Steve, back to the underdog rankings. Let me get the right graphic up. Not talking about free agencies now.
If Debo goes back to the Niners, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, because you said he's one. So do you want to start too high or too low to wrap it up? Because this thought experiment, we're going to, we talked again, coaching carousel, QB starters, which we're lacking nowhere close to 32. Rookies, which I always lean into Steve, and he will have a rookie article up tomorrow on Substack, link in the description. Free agents, and now let's talk too high, too low. Where do you want to start? Too high, too low?
Hit this. Paul mentioned Tonjes. Tonjes is a restricted free agent. I'm assuming the 49ers pay the restricted tag and bring him back, would be my guess. So I don't think he will be an actual free agent.
Okay. You think he'd get the restricted free agent. Thoughts on, you liked if Debo goes to the Niners, and we're going to get to the too high, too low, going position by position. Now we've talked about every kind of context. Jalen Nair looks like a value. I'm guessing he's a free agent. Rashee Rice, too much risk. I think if he's ADP 26, being back in the news and all. Thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, no, I mean, let's start with too high then.
Okay.
And let's just start at receiver. I know we could go to any position first, but let's do it. I think that's an interesting conversation to start. Rice, we saw it. Like, sure, his points per game were right up there with Puka, Adams, JSN when he played, but Mahomes might not be 100% to start the year. Though he might be suspended to start the year. There's just a lot there. 26 is pretty rich, despite being in part of that offense. Now, maybe if everything goes right for him, Mahomes is 100% back. Kelce retires would help him. But if Kelce doesn't retire, I think that actually hurts Rice. So I think Rice is one I'm too high on. The first receiver I'll say I'm too high on, and this might get some pushback from
Or
Chad.
that you think the rankings are too high.
Yeah.
Basically. Okay, go ahead.
CeeDee Lamb, 6 ADP overall. We know the upside's there, but I'm assuming George Pickens is back.
But we
Franchise
saw the difference when George Pickens in like a 1A, 1B. Yeah.
And also just receivers don't score as much as running backs. So we're already like head to head. You want the next 6 running backs over him in terms of points per game upside, right? Unless he finishes wide receiver 1. And he dealt with a couple injuries. And I think it's a 1A, 1B situation, but unlike say Chase and Higgins, I think it's much closer between the two. I really do. So I think Lamb is probably a round too high. I think he should be mid-second round.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I could probably get behind. So I guess when we get to too low, you probably think just Lamb, because we saw obviously points per game. Even if you're factoring in, I just pulled it up, points per game. Pickens was 6th with 11.7 points per game, and where was Lamb? Was 19th at 9 points per game. I mean, we saw multiple games, even when Lamb was fully healthy, where Pickens outscores them. So I agree with you there. So you're going to kind of have them ranked very close together, essentially. Yeah. Okay. That I totally agree with that. Okay. Other 2 high ones. So going through the first round, I don't know. London, that's a little too high for me personally, not knowing the quarterback. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, until we know the quarterback.
And then let's just go right in a row. It's too high for me. London, not knowing the quarterback. Neighbors, I love Neighbors. I was so high on him last year. Obviously, injury that hurt. But you said there was some kind of mixed news on the Neighbors kind of recovery and when he should. Yeah. So I want to get more news on that before I take him at 14. Justin Jefferson, I'm not taking him at 15. No freaking way. If JJ is, they're going to bring in veteran competition. That's been already said. But who is the veteran competition, right? Like if it's just like a Tyrod Taylor type, then no. If it's somebody that could really compete and deliver the ball to Justin Jefferson, then maybe. But I still would have, to your point, Pickens ranked over him. What are your thoughts on Jefferson?
Yeah, this is the tough thing is I think wide receiver, it's like we know the upside for guys like London. Neighbors, I'm a little bit more, I think he's a second rounder. This is him going high second round. I'd like him more mid to late. And Jefferson, I'd like him late or into the third round. It's just there's just too much risk for these guys. I will take them some, but you are just conceding points to those running backs in that range, just massively. And it's also, this is why I might end up with more Puka, Chase, JSN, because we just know the certainty there. ASB, another one, we just know the certainty. Even though you're conceding some points to the running backs taken there, we know their role. We know now Puka, maybe Stafford retires. That is a bit of a concern. Yeah. But in terms of Chase, JSN, and ASB, we know the quarterback. We know maybe Kubiak leaves from Seattle. We already know Detroit's new offense coordinator. I just think we know a lot more in those situations, and Puka to an extent as well. So. Yeah, the London and Jefferson really worry me going that high. Do they have the upside to be top tier? Sure. But with that, they're going to need a very good quarterback play.
Yeah, the unknowns are scary. I want more. I love Neighbors. I'm totally in on like the Harbaugh, Todd Monken, the Giants offense, but I want to know an update on his, where he's at in the recovery. We already discussed Rice. Anything else at the receiver position as we scroll down and make our way down that is too high?
So, the Philly situation is tough without knowing the coordinator. Now, A.J. Brown is no longer mid-second, and we saw down the stretch he got utilized better. But boy, he might not be in Philly. He might get traded. So that could be a better situation if it's Buffalo, or it could be a far worse situation if it's, that who knows if the Raiders trade for him or something, you know. So I will say one guy, Jamison Williams, I think is way too high. He just disappeared too much too often. The new offense coordinator, Drew Petzig, definitely pro tight end. So Laporta, if Laporta bounces back from injury, could really feast there. So I think JMO, I'm a little worried about. Garrett Wilson, another quarterback situation.
Yeah.
I know we're taking him around later.
You called this last year too. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
agree.
we're taking him around later, and I know he smashed early, but it was all garbage time outside the first game against the Steelers, and it was like, the Miami game, the Dallas game, like, boy, if garbage time is great, and look, every player, even on some great teams, gets some garbage time games, but just so much harder to count on. And until I know what they're doing at quarterback, I don't think I can take Garrett Wilson that high. I mean, this offense was just so anemic.
A lot of great comments in chat. I'm trying to put them up. We're not able to get to all of them, but trying to put them up as we go through. Nico seems tricky. Talent is there, but OCs never seem to spam like we prefer.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. Flyfish, who Hames agreeing with you about Laporta could hurt, JMO in that offense. You were absolutely right on Garrett Wilson last year. Steve, address it. Zay Flowers, where do you put him? You and I are both low because it's the touchdown equity. It's on Drafters or DraftKings. I'm totally fine with where Zay Flowers at. It's the touchdown equity. What did he end up with this year? 5.
5, and then he had a rushing touchdown. But
yeah.
The tough thing with Zay Flowers, if you look, week 1, he was wide receiver 1. And then I don't think he had a week above like 13 points until like week 13 or 12 maybe. Mm. And then he was better down the stretch and in the playoffs. So it was just very hard for him to get there. And
we need to see the offense, who I just blanked on the coach's name. Minter brings in as his OC too. So yeah.
So I mean, he's a guy I like as a player. I think he's good, but he had so many games, and this is with Huntley as well, where he'd have like 7 for 70, and that's fine. That's 10 points. But that's ideally your flex play,
right?
And to take somebody in the top 50, I won't be as low on him as I was, just also because this is a massive unknown area.
Yeah.
I actually like this next group, and we'll talk about the two.
Well, you already talked about that you liked where these rookies are going, and you feel like they could, if they get a landing spot, they could be like a T-Mac where they pay, are worthy of this. So that covers the rookies. I know someone in chat mentioned they thought Pierce too high, and you and I both always been high on Pierce, but this is like 100 ADP jump from where we were taking him last year. I mean, it definitely depends on landing spot. Like you said, if he goes to the Bills, my God, I'm totally worth fine paying ADP 54. But if he goes to somewhere that doesn't have a good quarterback or offensive scheme, then no, I don't think he's worth 54. So any thoughts on Pierce? And then, let's.
Yeah, I think that's what it boils down to. Like we saw the last 2 years, with Steichen and even some questionable quarterback play of Anthony Richardson 2 years ago, and then the quarterbacks after Daniel Jones this year. He had 2 good years and wasn't even like the true feature guy, but he got more featured. So I think we liked that we saw progression from him. He's been productive every year, but if he goes to a situation where he could be featured, I think he could pay off this. But it's a thin line right now. Like where he goes is going to matter so much.
Steve, I want you to draft with you. He wants to draft with you and make you take Zay. What do you say, Steve? You're going to take a Zay team?
I mean, I'll do it. I definitely was too low on Zay this past year. I only had like 2%. He's a guy at 45. I won't be 100%. I do like last year. Part of the issue was you had to like reach to get him, and you're bringing up his ADP to pair him with Lamar. Just didn't feel right. Now Lamar is actually going below him, so it's just some easier ways to do it.
Got Best Ball Cabal in here. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Can't wait for the big board and Best Ball. Absolutely. We cannot wait either. That's why we were sickos. We're at it 2 hours now. We've talked coaches, QBs, rookies, free agents. Now we're talking too high. Let's keep it moving, Steve, because we could be here all night. My dog's losing his mind. What are other big too highs that you see?
So I think DK Metcalf for sure, unless Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Right. I think that's probably a massive one. and they bring it up, and we'll have more debate about the Drew Petzing. I mean, that's just part of the offense, the system that he came from, being very tight end focused. It's the Fanspeak offense. Is the Arizona situation. You have Marvin Harrison and Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson's going ahead of Marvin Harrison now.
Wow, yeah.
So I think that is one of those is wrong.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. But in terms of guys that are too high,
I mean, how we handle, like you said, I think someone in chat mentioned, just from a team levels perspective, all the Bears are like really high. So you have to decide how you want to prioritize that. They're not probably all going to pay off their ADP. Jaguars are very high. So if you just sort Jaguars receivers, what do we have here? So Jaguars receivers is Brian Thomas, Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, but very, very close together, and Hunter at 130. Honestly, the Bears and the Jaguars are going to be and Jaguars especially are going to be very, very, very hard to rank early. So how do you handle this? I know we're talking about too high right now, but let's just have a Jaguars conversation.
So I think it becomes two things. One, could one of these receivers get moved for each of these teams? Maybe, maybe not. We can't assume that right now. So I think in stacks, I think you just kind of take it a little at the ADP. Where I look at, I think Brian Thomas has the most upside of the Jaguars receivers. I think from the Bears perspective, that's already being priced in. Rome or Burden, I think, have the biggest upside. DJ Moore, well, he was good down the stretch, and maybe not in the game ending or the play that ended their season by not running that route perfectly, but he had some big plays for them. I just think going forward, Odunze and Burden kind of take over. The interesting thing with the Jaguars is a little different. The Jaguars' highest upside receivers, and I know who knows what to do with Travis Hunter right now. That's a wild situation, but are BTJ and Travis Hunter. I like Jacoby Myers as much as the next guy. I was taking him plenty last year when I thought he'd be the Raiders wide receiver one. And Parker Washington, no doubt, played extremely well down the stretch, and he is going to be very warranted in taking him next year if he's anything near this role. But they're definitely not their two highest upside receivers. They just might be the two best ones right now. So, I'm going to mix it up for those teams. The Bears are even pricier at Burden and Udunze's price. But we have a lot of these teams. Like, what to do with the Tampa situation?
Another loaded. Another loaded situation. Buka 58, Evans 65, Godwin 118, McMillan 136. Yeah, that is tough. I mean, there's going to be some.
Green Bay is another one. I mean, Dubs is a free agent, so he comes up right now, but they might bring him back. Who knows?
Right.
These tough situations.
Yeah, and I know you've been working before you're even doing the rankings. And honestly, I may give it a week or two of drafting before I put my rankings out, just because I do feel like some of it's like you have to sit with it a little bit or see how ADPs move. But yours will definitely be out, hopefully this weekend. And it's hard. I mean, these are hard. You have to really make some stands on these, and then there's going to be massive ADP movement, and you want to see but if you have stands that you want to get some closing line value or something like that, then by all means. But I am struggling personally with some of these rooms, like Packers, Bears, Jaguars, Bucks, they're crowded, and you have to decide they're when you have that many ranked, above ADP of 108 as and then Golden's 124 here. I don't, we've seen it year after year. It's unlikely they're all going to pay off their ADPs. So I don't know. It's tough. Those are conversations we're going to have behind the scenes and in our rankings. And quite honestly, it's going to be probably fluid, the first couple of weeks. Let's finish the two high conversation receivers because we have a ways to go. But first, big shout out to Mike Robb, the GOAT in here. Appreciate the long show. We were starving as a community. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Mike. We appreciate you, Mike. You're absolutely so kind, and we absolutely appreciate it. Two questions from Who Hames, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin. I mean, I think quite honestly, maybe I'm addicted to olds too, or too low for me. What do you think?
I'm probably more so on Evans than Terry. But Terry, a lot depends. Is Debo back? Do they go out and bring in a big tight end option like Njoku? If not, and Terry's just the guy again, then yeah, I'm fine. Him being schemed up every single target. But if they bring back Debo, if they go get in Njoku or Likely or something like that, then Terry at 71 is probably right around where he should be. I mean, maybe he should go above Michael Wilson and go a spot or two higher. But
well, I mean, because like the one thing I'll say for Terry is, as being Washington fans and Terry being one of my favorite players, Steve jokes with me that now all my favorite players in the NFL are not Washington players. Terry is still one of them. You saw it with very different quarterback play in like 23, 22. He still put up decent numbers. He's a great contested catch, but it was 24 with Jaden. It's rookie year. It hit the, positive touchdown regression. And probably that was too far, obviously. But
yeah.
if he finished even like close to 200 fantasy points, if he stays healthy, if he gets a full off season, stays healthy, I'm just looking at like 200 fantasy points this year, where that would put you. I mean, I know the NFL, if total 200 fantasy points this year was right around George Pickens at 198. I mean, at wide receiver 4.
But I don't think he has that kind of like, he would need 14 touchdowns again. Like Washington's not going to throw the ball enough.
He only had 5 and 22 and had 190 though.
Yeah, that was a little different. I mean, the point is, I just don't know if there's going to be enough targets out there, enough touchdowns out there. Some of that is, guys missing time or whatnot. Like, there's just so many guys above him who are going to, yes, his 98th percent outcome is 200 points, 95th percent outcome, whatever. But there's so many guys who that's their 80th percent out, like AJ Brown has a bad year. He's got 181. Yeah. That is.
Well, AJ Brown this year only had.
That's what I mean. He had 181.
No, he had 141.
Oh, this must include the playoffs. I'm looking at the underdog numbers.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at half point PPR. Full season, and he had 141. So that must have he only had one playoff game. He didn't score 4. I don't know what's happening, but anyways, bottom line is
underdog numbers. But point being.
I'm not looking at Fantasy Pros here, and like even if Terry, because scoring has come down, so okay, so maybe he's not going to hit his but say he even is at like 170, like he was in 2023 with only 4 touchdowns. Like, to me, going wide receiver, I don't know what ADP of 70 wide receiver, what that is, but even if he only had like, what did I say, 160 or 170. I mean, this year that was in that like wide receiver 20 like range, like where Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, CeeDee Lamb. I mean, not a full season, but you get what I'm saying. I don't know. I think 70 feels like, it doesn't feel like Terry's peak.
Yeah, but I guess
like
my point is Pittman was being taken in the 90s and the hundreds last year. Like,
yeah, good point.
So it's that kind of thing. Like there's just not as much ceiling with a team like Washington, unless David Blau has them throwing just far more this year.
All right. So let's keep plowing through the receivers here. We kind of talked about these situations like Jacksonville, Bears, Bucks, that kind of stuff. Obviously there's rookies like that you like Surratt. So we're still talking about too high here. And again, before we know, obviously draft and free agency, anything else that's screaming way too high. Because we have 3 other positions to move to.
Yeah, too high. Well, one Brandon Ayuk. I mean, 132.
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
And I'll give it. We had plenty of player takes. Right, plenty wrong. Nobody's gonna be perfect. We were definitely more right than we were wrong. But one of the ones I was most proud of is Anthony Richardson and Brandon Ayuk. We always just pushed them down and we're like, do not basically draft them. And we were right on those. And those are the things you want to stay away from because they're just dead roster spots. I don't know what team is going to want to deal with his shit, but that'll be interesting to see. I just hope it's not Washington.
As mentioned before, Tank Dell, 158 for a guy who he had such a great run as a rookie, but he's small, undersized, and he's gotten hurt massively twice. And it's just crowded. Like, even if they don't bring back Kirk, he's got to outperform two guys who had better draft capital. And it's not even the same offense coordinator who was there when drafted him, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one.
It gets really into the weeds here down low
like guys like Calvin Ridley, I think, is too high unless we know for sure he's going to be a starter. But then that kind of, I think it's fine.
I think more you'd be talking about like too lows of certain rookies, or maybe like a Trey Tucker, or you think somebody bounces back or something like that. So let's go to the other positions to plow through the two. I don't know why I keep saying plow through, to go through the too high. Obviously I love Drake May, but this is, I knew he'd be pushed up to the elites, but then the elites kind of fell, like Lamar at 50. Caleb jumps up, Drake May jumps up, Lamar goes down to 50. Herbert is up, Jackson Dart's up, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow. But then you've got like Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, that I think some people are going to say too low. So maybe instead of just too high, too low, let's just have a quarterback. Let's just have a quarterback conversation here. I think that's easier to go position by position. So let's go through too high, too low for these first, through round 5, which is ADP of 60. You have Josh Allen, 27, Drake May, 38, Lamar, 50, Caleb Williams, 52, Herbert, 60. To me, I still think Josh Allen should be in the 3rd round. Like, I just, I think with all the other quarterbacks falling, I think Josh Allen should still be in the 3rd round, even though I understand he's always QB 1 or 2. I get it. But there's an opportunity cost there with the running backs and receivers, in my opinion. So I'd rather 3rd round. Same with May. I'd rather him like 4th round.
Well, his 3rd round.
Oh, well, the beginning of the 3rd round. Yeah, sure. No, I get it. But I think Lamar seems a little low. Caleb seems a little high. Herbert with Mike McDaniel, and if his offensive line could stay healthy, I'm fine with it. Where do you think about these top 5 or 6?
I think Allen is definitely fine. I mean, I want to see who the coach is. I hope they bring in a top receiver, but this guy, he just gets it done every single year. 3 straight years of double-digit touchdowns, and even without the tush push, he was doing it in 2 years ago without the tush push. So, and his passing touchdowns have gone down because he's got no weapons. If they actually bring in some weapons for him, he can even go higher. And he is just separating from the rest of the group we saw last year. So I'm fine with where you're taking him. May, I do think, is too high. I love Drake May.
Oh, we love Drake May. We're team Drake May here. We wanted him to be a Washington,
Well, and here's the thing, like, he didn't get enough running touchdowns. Like, I thought he would be not Josh Allen, but he wasn't even close to double-digit rushing touchdowns. Could that still be in his future? Yes. But until we know that,
I'm looking at the stats, full season 2025 stats on Fantasy Pros. He had 4. So
which, I mean, Trevor Lawrence had 9? So, and I don't expect necessarily Lawrence to match that again, but I think that's a little. I will have teams of Drake May. There's no doubt, but that is too high. I think, like you said, this next bit, Lamar, you see the coaching, but we know the upside there. Caleb, obviously was.
I feel like this is too high.
I think it's too high. What I like about Caleb, though, is they're going to return all of his weapons. Coach, most of the offensive line, so. Wow, I think we're paying probably the premium for him. I think he can hit it.
Well, I mean, we are kind of matching. Like, obviously, this is total fantasy points. Josh Allen was first at 374. Again, full season, half point PPR. Drake May, well, that doesn't matter for them, but Drake May 358 at QB2. Then it was Stafford, then Lawrence, to your point, at 350. I don't know why it just refreshed on me. And I believe Caleb was fifth. Yeah, Caleb was fifth at 350. So I mean, Caleb Williams was fifth at 324. Lawrence was fourth at 350. So it is kind of in line with where they finished a little bit. And obviously Stafford's further down because we don't know if he's going to retire and he's older and that kind of stuff. So I mean, I get it. It's just, it feels high for Caleb Williams. And I know it could be like he and Ben Johnson are just scratching the surface, right? So similar to May, I love Caleb Williams. I love him in the Ben Johnson offense. I want to have shares. I don't want to be without him, but I don't know that I'll be overweight if his price stayed. What about the next group? Herbert, Dart, Lawrence. Then you got Burrow. It feels like there's a lot of value potentially here because of injury history. Burrow, Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and then Stafford. Obviously, I'm not touching him until after the Super Bowl and see what he does.
So first I'll say, I think Herbert, I like, look, he's going to have weapons. Even if Keenan Allen leaves, like Trey Harris, they have weapons. They have Mike McDaniel, who, speaking of Ladd McConkey, I think Ladd McConkey is the biggest beneficiary of Mike McDaniel. He loves motion. He loves speed, quick receivers. That's Ladd McConkey for sure. And Herbert, you just look at his splits with Joe Alt last year, and that's without Rashawn Slater. And he was, he was worth this price. So if both those guys are back and every pick of the Charger, they should take 18 offensive linemen into the season next year. Like, they just can't do what they did this year. It's criminal. It's absolutely criminal what they did for Herbert. And, I think we also saw just massive rushing upside, only 2 rushing touchdowns, but almost 500 rushing yards for Justin Herbert when he was banged up and all that. So I think he's fine. Jackson Dart, I actually think is a little high. I know people were saying Blake Neighbors is back, probably Todd Monken's the OC, but Dart, we saw him in and out of a lot of games. He had 9 rushing touchdowns. I just don't know if that's going to continue going forward.
And even if you look at fantasy points per game, he was 14th. So not looking at total fantasy points because he didn't start the whole season, but he was 14th in fantasy points per game at 17.6.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is because he left games early.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But that
is a risk factor.
You're running here. Like, I would easily take Lawrence, not necessarily in this order, but
I don't know if Steve froze. Maybe Steve. It froze for a while for me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I would take Lawrence, Burrow, Jaden, and Jalen ahead of Dart pretty much every time. I think Stafford's too high because he has no rushing upside, unlike every other quarterback we've thus far mentioned. And he needs to play at just an insane MVP level to be even in this mix. So I'm going to say Stafford's too high. I mean, he should be like, if he's back, like 120-ish. But
he was QB3 though on the year. You're
I
just
understand,
saying,
but he has to play at such an elite level. Like, there's no margin of error.
Yeah, like last year they were more run heavy. A lot of the touchdowns were rushing, so he, that's why it was so much lower.
46 passing touchdowns. Like, that's not sustainable. Like, he'd be lucky to get 36. So you cut 10 touchdowns off. That's 40 points.
Yeah. No, that's a good. That's a fair point.
Go
ahead.
I think going down the next group is actually my favorite.
Time out really quick. What's your thought? I mean, I think a lot of people are going to assume that Jaden and Hurts with their rushing upside are too low. Where are you going to rank them?
I think lower than last year, obviously, but I think they're too low. I think their upside is just so high. I mean, Hurts, again, it was a down year, but he still had a good fantasy year.
Tim makes a point that I want to then shout out, the Joe Burrow thing. This is where everybody wanted Joe Burrow. The push to the whole debate, push to whatever. We see when Joe Burrow's healthy, he is like, a top 5 quarterback. It's just, he has had problems staying healthy. So I'm fine with him here. And quite honestly, if I had a Higgins Chase stack, I would take him. I would be fine taking him a little earlier than this. What are your thoughts on Joe Burrow?
I mean, the thing is now we won't need to. Last year, there was a gap between him at QB5 and then the next tier of what was it, like Mahomes, Kyler, and Baker. And so there was like a 2-round gap from, his ADP started in the 70s and then moved up because people were doing them. But now you can push them to that 6th, 7th round turn if you're stacking with shit. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Just because these other quarterbacks, like Daniels and Hurts can go above him. Lawrence can go above him. Dart, if you want, can go above him. I mean, I think Burrow can easily outscore all of them if he stays healthy. But now there won't be the need to pull him up to 50.
Yeah.
There's just no need to.
I get that. How are you handling then this area? Mahomes coming back from injury. Then Dak always is ranked around here. But again, when he stays healthy, and he finished total fantasy points, QB6, fantasy points per game. He was a little bit lower, QB8 or 9, QB9 or 2 were tied. So he was like QB8 because there were a couple ties. So he was QB6 on the year. When he's healthy, he's right around there. So I actually think he's too low. And I'm always a Dak girl though. Here we go.
Yeah. I mean, this next group, that's why I think is kind of my favorite because you Mahomes, if we'll have to see what the health looks like. And if Kelsey comes back, I think that's a plus for him. But I honestly think Bieniemy being offense coordinator is the biggest plus for him. I mean, Matt Nagy has not been good. And I have no idea why he's getting some head coaching love out there. I don't think he ends up with the job, but Chiefs just said we're going to bring back Bieniemy. So, and like you said, Dak, we've seen it. When he is healthy, he's a top 5 quarterback. Bo Nix, ankle surgery, but it's not as concerning as some of these other injuries. He's got rushing upside, so I think he's fine. And then Brock Purdy, the guy down the stretch who you absolutely wanted, absolutely needed. He's got a ton of weapons. We'll see if they bring back Jawan Jennings, if they, or to bring back a Debo or something, but I'm gonna.
If Purdy stays here, I'll have a ton. Yeah, absolutely love that. Then you got another range that feels a little too low. I'm fine with Love there. They can be run heavy. Goff, what do you think about the new OC as a quarterback? Because I understand you like Laporta, but because Goff has finished again last year. He's always in that kind of top 10 mix. So, and he always kind of stays where Dak is. So it feels a little low for me, but I am a little bit worried about the OC because I was never pressed with Petzig in Arizona. But so how do you handle Goff? Because then I'll just say I think Baker's.
I think what we saw is the upside of Jacoby Brissett to Goff. When they the system needs more of a drop back quarterback or an under center. I mean, you can be in shotgun, but just not like a run around quarterback like Kyler. So somebody who's going to throw from the pocket. We saw those attempts just fly up the boards with Jacoby Brissett. And we can see that with Goff. I mean, Goff's more efficient, so may not need as many attempts, and they got some bigger play weapons, so they could get bigger chunk gains. But he's going to return a passing weapon set of ASB, JMO, Laporta, Gibbs. That's about as good as it gets. They could use some offensive line upgrades. Tesla kind of mixing in there also. I think Goff could be really good in this offense with Drew Petzing. So, I mean, no rushing upside, but this is a guy who 3 straight years of 30-plus touchdowns, 4,500 yards. I mean, honestly, 4 straight years because it's 44 and 29 4 years ago. So that's a lot of points, even with no rushing upside. And there's consistency there, and all the weapons are the same. So I feel pretty good about that.
Tim's a Cards fan. He doesn't love it, even targeting McBride and Wilson. It sounds like not a Petzig fan. But I agree with this comment. Hawkins Smash Potatoes from Dak to Baker is an absolute sweet spot. We said last year rounds 8 to 13, just hit 3 quarterbacks in that range. And that's what I did a lot. And I love those teams. I think I'm going to do the same here. from Dak, Bo Nix, Purdy, Love, Goff, Mayfield. If I got 2 in that range, and if somehow you wanted to triple tap, I absolutely love this range. This range is loaded with upside. Some of them do have some, scrappy rushing upside, like Nix, Purdy, Mayfield. And then some of them just have that ability to just consistently finish top 5, top 10 if they do break right on touchdown. So I absolutely love this range. Kyler Murray, way too high for me. I would say Darnold is a little too low, maybe, being a second year in this offense. What about Chuck, Bryce Young, Darnold, Mendoza? Like I said, I'd like Mendoza as a third quarterback here.
I'm really interested in Chuck at this price. I think second year of Kellen Moore. I think Kellen Moore is a good office coordinator. He returns at least 2 weapons in Olave and Juwan Johnson. I think they'll add more. Their offensive line, it looks ready to go. Not sure what their running back situation is going to be. But what I do think, the Taysom Hill era is going to be officially done. That was even taking away some points from Chuck down the stretch. And Chuck can run. He showed some wheels there as well. So
I agree with Tim, and Cooler's wildly is too low. We will have ranked above, certainly above Kyler, and definitely agree with that. Are you kind of fine, or do you think Young, Darnold, Mendoza should be a little higher?
Yeah, I'll probably put Young at the bottom of those, just because, Dave Canales has been fine, but there's just not a lot of consistency. They weren't trusting Young. Even when they were winning, they were doing it more so on Rico in that mid-stretch of the year. And when they had to really rely on Bryce Young, I know he had a really good playoff game. I give him a lot of credit there. But I just don't know if we'll see enough consistency. And he ran less than I thought he would. He played more games and ran less than the year prior, both in terms of yards and touchdowns. That's not great. I was hoping.
I liked him so much last year because I thought he was going to kind of run more, and that didn't pan out as far as his kind of rushing upside. So I agree. I think he's a little too high, and honestly, Mendoza and Darnold might be a little too low. So the rest, this is where we get to the murky area. I'm probably.
I think Daniel Jones is somebody worth speculating on. We saw the upside there, even if he doesn't start the year.
If he's your third quarterback, I'm fine with it, especially if we're just operating an assumption he's back with Steichen and the Colts and he doesn't start the year, but we have him by October or something. This late as your third quarterback, I'm totally fine with that. Cam Ward, I think someone talked about the second year bump. I'm fine with that.
Like I said, he was better down the stretch and he should have better weapons, better coaching, so I'm fine taking some shots there. But
we talked about all the other quarterbacks in this range. It just feels too murky for me to make big stands on now. Anything else? Okay. Obviously, for the ones that are free agents, as we get more news, we'll react to that as a fluid situation. Okay, let's go to running back now. Obviously the first rounds, running backs are moving up because you've kind of leaned in, especially on underdog half point PPR scoring. Running backs score more than receivers, and you want to get some early. And so right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ranked in the top in the first round. Bijan, Gibbs. I thought Gibbs would be ranked a little higher, but Bijan, Gibbs, JT, McCaffrey, James Cook, Achane. I'm again apology tour for James Cook last year. Steve was right. I was wrong. But yeah. And then second round, Barkley, Genty, Hampton, Henry, Jeremiah, Love, and then Chase Brown at 24. So what are your thoughts? Any two highs, two lows of the first 2 rounds? Because that's where you got to get it right.
Yeah. I don't think I honestly think Gibbs should probably be ADP 2 above Puka. Just the upside is massive. I think David Montgomery might be playing somewhere else. He's under contract, but may they trade him, may they cut him. We'll see. We just saw down the stretch Gibbs just see a much bigger role. Obviously, he wasn't great in the fantasy playoffs. Some of that was just the matchups they had were not great. Just the upside we've seen with this guy is so huge that I think he should probably be the second player.
Yeah, same.
JT and McCaffrey. McCaffrey is older, but he keeps getting it done. Cook, Achane. I want to know what the offense is going to be before I take him in the first round, I will say. But he is absolutely deserving of that if they can have some semblance of an offense. So
Yeah, someone mentioned, let's see, Tim mentioned about a chain. I just want to see what the OC that they bring in, I guess, and the quarterback situation.
Yeah, because Mike McDaniel was very creative and got Achane just favorable matchups and leverage and stuff like that. I don't know if the new guy will do the same because we can't rely on the offense to be good enough. That was my argument of James Cook last year. Is he was the poor man Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah.
Dual threat running back on a great offense, and that's what pays off. And all these other guys, JT, obviously the offense took a hit at the end, and we saw it in JT's numbers, but all these other guys, Bijan's the only one on an offense that we have any worrisome about, but he's just so freaking good. And he's just such a complete back, and Algiers probably moving on, so he's probably going to have a better touchdown role.
Oh no, I'm totally locked for Bijan 1, and I'm with you. I like Gibbs too, honestly, and I'm fine with you. I might bump up JT McCaffrey slightly because, like you mentioned, I think CD was in one of those spots, and then we want to kind of wait and see. But we're going to put rankings out. So, So what do you think about the second round? Because let's move. We're peaking on 3 hours here, but I love it. What do you think about like the Barkley, Jeremiah Love, or Chase Brown?
I think Barkley or Henry should be the top of the second round. Honestly, probably both of them, and in any order. Barkley, I know it didn't go great, of course, but everything went wrong. What happens if only half the things go wrong, or none of the things go? Like they get a real offense coordinator again. Genty is tough. Like we're relying on a rookie quarterback, bad offense. Like I like Hampton, I think above Genty. From an ADP perspective,
especially with Mike McDaniel,
exactly, and
Henry, you like Henry hires still with the touchdown equity?
We have to see the offense, but even though the offense last year was refusing to play him in games where they should have, like that Patriots game, Henry was still just dunking. 16, like that kind of touchdown
16 touchdowns. That's crazy.
It's too good. And, almost 1,600 yards rushing plus a little receiving. So, the upside's too high. I will look, I know it's crazy, but I'm going to bump up Chase Brown. I think we saw in games with either Burrow or Flacco, he was much better.
Yeah.
And particularly Burrow. And I'm praying to God it's the end of the Samaje Perine era and they stop taking him off the field. But Chase Brown, if the Bengals offense is there with Joe Burrow, he is more deserving of a early to mid second round pick in my opinion.
Yeah, and starting slow and dealing with the backups, he finished still RB8. So yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, then how do you handle it? So you said Jeremiah Love's more like of a third rounder for you, I assume.
Yeah, I'll probably have him like 30th or something like that.
What about this? Jacobs, Bucky, Kyron, ETN, Breece Hall. This is a kind of a murky tier, but I still feel like you and I talk about like the context of like still liking to build pretty robust RB on Underdog. I still don't want to push these guys down too far. Where I'll probably push down is probably, I don't know. I feel like Harvey and Hendo are a little too high.
So I think Bucky's probably a little too high. Even with Rashard White probably moving on, it's probably going to be Sean Tucker. Somebody else is going to have the touchdown role. Jacobs, I think, is too low. Not by much, but I think Jacobs you could easily say is more at the turn. Mm-hmm. Kyron kind of the same. I know Quorum did Quorum things, but and ate into it some, but over 1,500 total yards, 13 touchdowns, like in the regular season. Like we saw how he's utilized in the playoffs. We know McVay loves him, the game and extension, all that jazz. If Stafford leaves, that does take a hit because the whole offense.
That's going to be a whole Rams, thing if Stafford retires.
I think the biggest question is what we talked about with the free agents, the ETN, Hall, Walker. If ETN and Walker are back where they're at, I'm taking them there. Hall, I hope he goes somewhere else. Harvey, Hendo are probably too high right now. I think. I don't.
What did they end up with? Okay, Harvey did end up with 7 touchdowns, but just felt like Sean Payton's hard to
Or
trust.
he'd
Like, is he fully going to trust him? I feel like there's going to be another RB in the mix. I just don't think he's going to get, he had 146 touches, 7 touchdowns this year. I just don't know how much his role grows. Like, we see the and then he did have some efficiency issues. Same with Henderson, but 7 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns, I'm seeing it, but I just, Scottaboo had 5 touchdowns in like 7 games. So I don't know. I just, I feel like I'm going to have Scottaboo above them. Shocker. I mean, nobody's surprised about that. It sounds like all reports. Jeff Mueller's the Twitter doctor that I listen to and trust, and Degen Doc, who's been on this channel, trust them immensely with and he said he's going to be overweight on Scottaboo. So then drafting Scottaboo. So, I mean, he's young, he obviously says he's going to be ready for the start of OTAs and all that good stuff. So I would probably flip them and have Harvey, Henderson, probably the more like around 5s.
But this is also why I will be very robust running back. I will take 3 running backs in top 4 rounds for this reason, is it thins out.
Yeah.
It really thins out. We're taking, DeAndre Swift, was great this year. What happens with Kyle Monangai next year? I think Swift is still fine at 55 range. But Judkins coming off an injury, major questions of the offense. Ramondre, I mean, him and Hendo, how do we figure this out? Jalen Warren, I think this questions. Javonte, I feel pretty good with at that ADP, assuming he's back in Dallas. But this other range.
If he's back in Dallas, I'm moving him up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hand up, I was wrong on Javonte too. So.
But this other range, because we're literally talking about backup running backs here, like Kyle Monangai, Blake Corum, Chuba Hubbard, to get to the top 100.
And then you get into some of those rookies. Yeah.
Some of these rookies are Tootin, which, I mean, even if ETN leaves, I don't know if I love Tootin that much.
Wow. It does thin out. You're right. Yeah. I mean, there are some guys you could take shots on, like, where is David Montgomery's landing spot? Some of these rookies that you like the Emmett Johnsons of the world. Yeah. Tyler Algier, does he get a good free agency land? And that's why we did talk. I mean, that's why the show is going on 3 hours, as we talked about, coaches, free agents, rookies. It matters. It matters in the context of why we think these are too high, too low. So maybe you do feel like an Emmett Johnson or Tyler Algier, or David Montgomery, depending on land spots, are too low. But yeah, I mean, you're right there. The certainty really tails off after Javonte. I mean, and Javonte, if he like you said, if he goes back to Dallas, needs to be higher, I think. So yeah, that is really interesting. The nice thing about big board drafts, let me just get out before I lose my thought, is at least with a 20-round draft, you can still build robust and build a little depth in case you say you took 3 running backs early and then like 1 middle and 2 late. At least, you can do like 6 running back builds in a 20-round draft confidently, depending on how you like to build, the whole structure. But 3-6-8-3 is my favorite type of build in the big board pre-draft, just because you're then covering all the bases of all the positions, bye weeks. My bigger board team that did advance and barely advance had a week 14 bye and didn't even deal with injuries. Oh no, it did early in the season with Purdy. It had Drake May, Purdy, Bryce Young. And it's like, here I'm drafting 3 quarterbacks to protect for bye weeks in these situations. And I do get hit with a week 14, no quarterback. I barely made it. Then I just had too many injuries in the playoffs. So point is, I like the 3-6-8-3, and especially in big board drafts, I agree with you. I'm going to try to take 3 fairly early.
Yeah. So a couple running backs later that I do want to highlight that I'll be more in on. I mentioned a couple rookies.
Yeah, you mentioned like the engineering. Yeah.
But I mentioned Tyler Algier. I think he ends up as a starting role, or at least as a 2-down role.
Yeah. We talked about that. Yeah.
I think Jordan Mason, the offense should get better, and we're not taking him at 155. He was more productive than Aaron Jones last year. I think Sean Tucker, because I'm assuming Rashard White will be somewhere else. So I think those are 3 that I'm kind of targeting.
Where's Sean Tucker?
152.
Okay, got it.
And then the Arizona situation. You have James Conner 162. Trey Benson is like 200. Where's Trey Benson? Trey Benson is 240. One of these guys have to be Arizona has way too many needs. Like, they're not going to take Jeremiah Love at 3. I don't, and it's not a strong enough draft that I think they're going to be shooting bullets in the second, third round. So I think James Conner could be a good value, or Trey Benson right now where it's targeting, just because, Zonovan Knight, all those guys who were playing down the stretch were awful. Like they did nothing to show that they should really be in the mix. So I think from a value perspective, just looking at the ADP wise, having, like Huham said, like being overweight and being 11% on James Conner in the big board could be massive.
Right.
And same with having like 6-7% of Benson, because he's a 20th rounder right now. You're just taking him in the 20th round.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Well, I think we covered running back well, because most of it is in those first 5 rounds that you kind of want to address, getting a couple, because that kind of is going to be the meta shifting, as we've seen now multiple years in a row of running back. And people, the zero RB folks that, running backs get injured. Well, guess what? I mean, if I see one more wide receiver, concussion, wide receiver hammy pull, most of my wide receivers that were injury, it was soft tissue or concussion. And then of course the really bad ones, like the neighbors, the ACLs, they happen to them too. And then same with tight ends. I remember watching that like wide receiver documentary. I'm like, God, these guys get like lit up over the middle. They're dealing with concussions. They're dealing with all these soft tissue injuries, or just like getting like lit up and hitting shoulder stuff. I mean, it's just, they're all positions are susceptible to injury, especially it seems like tight end. I think when you look at like Twitter doctors, tight ends have like some of the highest injury rates. So I'm kind of going to go back to the meta of, like you said, pretty robust running backs, especially in the big board, 1-3 early. We'll talk about that, and I'm sure plenty more content. But I think we covered the running back well. We talked about receivers already, of like who was too low.
I did just want to hit on a couple comments, like Montgomery back to Chicago. I don't know. I probably could find a better landing spot, just because I think it is Swift and Monangai there. FK, I draft myself before I draft Woody Marks at ADP. I think that's fair. Like,
I like that. What's
Woody Marks is this year's Tyrone Tracy. Like, he was very good as a rookie.
No, yeah.
But there's so much holes to his game that it can be easily, like, you can easily find, it could be another rookie next year. It could be Joe Mixon coming back. It could be them signing they sign Rico Dowdle or something like that. And it's just totally...
When you said this, you hated, like, you didn't love him as a prospect from like good vision and that kind of stuff. You liked him as like, oh, he could get involved in the receiving game. They didn't even use him like that, Wild. Go ahead. Sorry, I'll let you continue.
And then a couple of comments here. Tim starting Devin Neal, no ADP. Yeah, Saints are another one. Like, it's a little bit more murky. If Kamara's back, Neal, Kendre Miller, Audric Estime actually showed a little down the stretch, but taking some speculative shots on, Saints maybe could use a more mid-round pick on a running back. Maybe they get like an Emmett Johnson or something like that. But taking some speculative shots there, I don't mind at all. And as Huham said, Neil, like, no ADP is absolutely crazy. And this is another one. I know people hate Najee, but it was a very early injury. He's probably more back than some other guys. And if Houston signs him, it could be he's Najee of the Steelers and Woody Marks becomes a Jalen Warren of the Steelers. Well, guess what? Najee outscored Jalen Warren, so it's like that ADP is crazy. But
and Cooler says there, you never know.
There is that chance. But so, and this is why I would take them speculatively now, just a few shares, but it's wild. Some of these teams where there's like some teams we talked about where the ADPs don't make sense because there are too many guys too high. But some of those teams like the Vikings, Saints, few others where there's like no running back taking the top 130 picks. Well, probably they're going to have a running back. It like coalesce to be worth that.
Yeah. This is a great comment. Woody's stumbling in his lineman. I thought it was Chubb since he moved like he was in his 30s with small. So true. And that's what again, listen to this guy on rookies. He said all along, Woody Marks does not have great vision, and people in the draft process speed and, that kind of whatever the people were getting excited about with Woody Marks. He ended up being fine, but he's not worth that ADP, like you said, stinks like Tracy's did last year. Huham says feels like Washington could take Love. I mean, they have a really early pick.
Love. That's Genty went 6th last year. Washington's 7th pick. that'd be kind of Love's like ceiling. But honestly, they could, because Washington tried to get cute with running back last year, blew up in their face.
Oh my God, I hate Adam Peters. I hate Adam Peters.
Honestly, like, they're not going to survive with a JCM, Chris Rodriguez, Jeremy McNichols trio again. And then I know they ideally wanted Eckler to have a large role in that and he get injured, but I think they're bringing somebody in, whether it's a rookie, whether it's like a mid-tier free agent running back. They're going to do something.
See, Mike always gives you a hard time about the olds, but you know the youngs too, Steve. You know your rookies. Flyfish, we're Washington fans. I'm not. He said Washington front office is why I think this happened. I'm not a Adam Peters fan, and they need to be younger and faster. What'd you say?
They've not been, like they haven't done a great job valuing. Obviously Jaden was a hit, but the rest of those picks, I mean, Ben's in it, like the rest of those picks in that draft were not that great.
And then the things they traded away for olds, like
they traded away a lot of mid-round picks, and for Tunsil was maybe fine, but yeah, this Washington team, they don't have a second-round pick because they traded for Tunsil. So that's why they shouldn't draft
low. And I'm not impressed with Adam Peters because I still wish we had Drake May. But I just think when it's all said and done, who's going to have a longer career, who's going to play more games. But that's me being a Drake May fan. Okay, the Cooler says Love goes to Commanders, Saints, or Chiefs. Yeah,
I mean, those are the teams, in the top 20 that early that need the running back the most. But Chiefs would be interesting.
Let's talk through receivers, round this out. Receivers, tight ends. We already talked who was too high, like the CeeDee Lambs, Justin Jeffersons of the world. Now let's talk who's too low. I mean, I also will say I'm going to have Puka ranked slightly lower. Like you said, we already said we're having Gibbs ranked too. But I'm going to be a little wary just because we saw when Devontae and him are both healthy. Obviously, Devontae had the most touchdowns of any receiver by 3 touchdowns, and that was with 3 less games, not played. So there's that. And then if Stafford retires, I'm just a little. I don't know. I probably still would have Chase above Puka, but I'm very nervous that Stafford could retire. But obviously, if he doesn't, he'll be in this range. But that's just nitpicking, from 2 to 4 or something like that. Who do you think is too? We already talked too high. Who's too low in this area?
Well, too low. I mean, I think
Pickens. I mean, for sure.
I think Pickens is probably a couple spots too low. I think you can make the same case for Chris Olave.
Really?
I mean, he had a really good year and dealt with Spencer Rattler most of the year. I think Shuck is way better than Rattler. If we believe Shuck could do anything in terms of growth, I think you can make a case for Chris Olave. 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, 100 catches. He missed a couple games down the stretch, I believe. Another one who I think, T. Higgins, not by too much, but I think he should go around the turn again.
Where he went last year,
and saying
even with Burrow out 11 touchdowns. I mean, he was awesome on my marathon team. Yeah, absolutely.
I mentioned it before. I know he burned us this year, but Ladd McConkey, if there's the biggest beneficiary of Mike McDaniel is going to be Ladd McConkey, in my opinion.
Maybe does that answer this question? Who is this year's JSN? Need that wide receiver that's a little later with wide receiver 1 potential?
Tyreek Hill had wide receiver 1 potential with Mike McDaniel. So I actually think so.
But Ladd McConkey's not like a burner like him, though.
Oh yeah. I mean, Ladd McConkey is some of the best speed in the game.
You think he's almost as fast as
Tyreek Hill? Not as fast, but he is extremely fast. Like he ran a 4.4. And he's just
he's so quick.
Exactly. He's so quick in and out. Those types of schemed up touches that McDaniel creates. McConkey is going to be the biggest beneficiary, I think. In terms of a guy who could be wide receiver 1 is who you mentioned, Devontae Adams. Like if he doesn't get injured, if those touchdowns keep happening, he needed a little bit more yards, but
Yeah.
he easily could have had 18 touchdowns, right?
Oh, yeah. He had,
you know,
14
so
on 14 games. So
those would be the two that I'd point to in like the third,
fourth round.
fourth round range that
And that's about where JSN was going, third round last year. So, as far as other two lows, I don't know. What do you think about Rome? Did you kind of already cover? We just said Bucks, Bears, Jags are a struggle, but yeah, I think he might still be too low, especially if they move off, trade DJ Moore.
If they trade DJ Moore for sure, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Luther Burden ends up as the number one receiver next year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. We saw him get used more down the stretch, and then he got banged up. Remember in that game at the end of the year, he got banged up against the Packers, but still, was out there playing. So I'm very bullish on him.
Mbuka is Flyfish's shout. Where do you like Mbuka? Again, this is tough with the Bucks. I mean, because I
Bucks do think it's so tough.
We already spent a lot of time on like Evans and Terry. I like them a little higher than as far as I think they're slightly too low. And like you called out, Michael Wilson or Marvin Harrison, one of those is wrong. One is probably too high, one's too low. I don't think they both. I don't know. And we need to see the quarterback situation, but I think one of these is wrong. I'll probably be higher on Mike Evans. What about Mbuka for you at 50?
I mean, like by a couple spots. If Evans is back, I think those are the top two, and then Godwin, and then McMillan is the fourth. But Evans just has such touchdown equity. And I think the tough thing for Mbuka is when he was honestly at his best when Evans was there, and Evans was drawing like the number one attention. So that maybe is a benefit for him. But Evans, I don't know. Like it's close for me. I think they're both very good. I like them in that, this like 6th, 7th round range.
What about Ricky Pearsall? Shout out by Who Hames. I kind of agree. They talked about him. They asked Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch specifically about him. What can he do to stay healthy? He's like, he did everything. He just had a bad luck of, the whole knee sprain. And he was like, you saw when he plays, he can be great.
Get rid of that transponder or whatever in San Francisco. But no, I think a lot depends on what San Francisco does. Like if they go out and bring in a big receiver like a Debo back or something else, then Pearsall takes a hit. If not, if it's just Juwan Jennings and Pearsall back, I think Ricky P, we saw in his healthy games, like look at some games where he got injured in like the Jacksonville game. He was off to a great start in that game, goes down. There's another game at the end of the year. Was it Colt? No, I can't remember.
I think it was the Colts game, but I agree. Pearsall, I probably would be above market on him, and Juwan Jennings at this price is too low. It's probably because of the free agency thing, but just we're operating under, if 49ers bring him back. Again, you shout out the rookies. Surratt's definitely one you're going to be higher on. Who are some of these rookies again that and again, check out Steve's rookie article tomorrow, link in the description. There's a couple rookies in this range. Jacoby Lane, was he another one of the ones?
No, not really.
Okay, he wasn't one of the ones. It was
Concepcion is the one that.
Oh, the Concepcion, no ADP, so stay tuned on that. Other ones in this range, Jalen Coker, I think I'll be a little bit higher on. Hopefully he continues what he did at the end of the season. There was another one in this range. I wanted
Jaden Higgins. We
talked about him.
Of a second-year bump.
Yeah, I like that. We already talked about Debo. What are you going to do about Travis Hunter? I mean, there's rumors that they're losing people in the secondary, so he may have to play more there. But you have to think the first, again, receivers don't stay healthy either necessarily. So if there's a receiver injury, he could still get mixed in at receiver. I still think he's going to have high value packages. So I don't know. I feel like I want more coach speak, but I'm not fading him. I'm just going to say that we saw that it was such a shame because the talent was there. He had that massive game in London. It was like he was poised for like the post-bye rookie bump breakout, and then he tore his ACL. So, but it says likely to play more defense in 2026. I think the market's going to push him down, and if the market so I'll probably have him ranked here a little lower because I think the market will push him down. But I would like to take advantage of that. If I have him as like my 5th or 6th receiver, or if you're hitting a bunch of receivers after you take a few running backs early, I really do like still considering Travis Hunter.
Yeah, it's tough. He does a lot of the same things that Jacoby Myers and Park Washington does. Like I said earlier, he's got the highest upside. He's got insanely high upside. And I just wonder if that wins out at the end of the day. I mean, Liam Cohen is an offensive guy.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, they invested all this money, and we saw what he could do when Trevor Lawrence had.
And again, what happens when somebody in the receiver room gets hurt, or if they do move up BTJ or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds crazy to move up BTJ, and I know they just gave Myers an extension. I don't know. It's tough because you wonder where they'd move off somebody, but I just think Hunter's just too talented to not be featured in the offense.
All right, quick question. No explanation. Golden or Watson? It's Watson for me. What is it for you?
Yeah, I think it's got to be Watson. I mean, long-term injury health concern, but Watson.
Best Ball Cabal says Surratt will fall when he runs a slower. Do you think he could run a slower 40?
I mean, yeah, he's not cracking like 4.4 or 5 or anything. Like he'll probably run a 4.56, 4.54, something like that. That'd be my guess.
So Trey Harris, no ADP. We all agree like him, especially if Keenan Allen retires. Yeah, and a good point here is at or below Burden Price and Pearsall 2 years ago. I'm with you, Hulk. Like, Rob, I love you. F it. You're in hour 3. Just go for 24. Absolutely hysterical. My dog will really lose his mind. All right. Anybody else? We talked about Juwan Jennings too low. There are some rookies again. Steve will not have a rookies article tomorrow of like the 6 rookies. He's going to be higher than the market as big board opens, but then he's going to break down all, again, Substack link in the description, quarterbacks. Well, it's quarterback, running backs, receivers, tight ends. So especially running backs and receivers. So stay tuned. We are going to be dialed in with rankings and with articles and, of course, more shows. We already talked about Tank Dell. We think that's too high, and Calvin Ridley. Any others too low here? We already covered this. So 2 lows for me. What do you think about like the Trey Tuckers of the world, or like a Darnell Mooney bounce back or something like that?
Some of this is just like, what do we think on some of these teams? Because how many Green Bay receivers, and I know Romeo Doubs is a free agent, are higher than the first Raiders receiver? Are higher than the second, Baltimore. Rashard Bateman is 187. Tennessee receivers, DK 185 is, I think, probably too low. I'm assuming Calvin Ridley ends up being cut. Even if they bring in somebody else, DK is just such an explosive athlete. Another situation is the Seahawks. As much as I love JSN, I don't think JSN, and we even saw it wasn't sustainable where he gets 50% of the team's targets.
Right.
So whether it's, Shaheed, if they bring him back, which I imagine they want to, I think that could be an interesting option at 140, because then he gets, utilized in the offense going forward, not just thrown in late in the year. So stuff like that. But other situations on, like just as a whole approach a team like you said, Mooney, I think he'll get another shot at to have a big role. And we'll talk about in a second, Kyle Pitts might move on. So, what does that mean?
Yeah. Okay, Best Ball Q says, fingers crossed, Concepcion to the Bills. Again, no ADP there. Pay attention to the no ADPs. With a lot of people, sharp people in the chat. We appreciate you all sticking with us 3 hours here, or the people that want to watch us back on fast feed or something. You're just scratching the surface here. This is Steve's wheelhouse. This is our wheelhouse on the Fanspeak Network. We loved all our in-season content, but we are ready to jump back fully into best ball season, starting with Big Board. As you can see, we're starting now, and stick with us to make sure you're subbed.
No ADP I want to shout out that I noticed. Ryan Flournoy.
Yeah, someone shouted out Lane Flournoy. Let's see, Torrey Horton, Pop Douglas. A lot of these no ADPs. So go ahead about Flournoy and Lane, and then let's try to wrap it up.
Down the stretch, Flournoy was clearly number 3 receiver. got ahead of Tolbert, head of Turpin. Turpin, get some, schemed up plays here or there, and he'll be back in that role. But I think Flournoy becomes the true third wide receiver on that team. And even for as much as it goes to the top two guys, I think Flournoy, as a 20th round pick, 19th round pick, absolute value there.
Okay. Cooler says, awesome show. 3 hours was unexpected, but you did a great job breaking it all down. Great stream. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. We truly do appreciate it. And again, a lot of you guys are sub to the Substack. If you haven't subbed to the Substack, sub to the Substack. That's how anybody can thank us that isn't subbed already, or if you haven't subbed to the Fanspeak network, to make sure bell on, because we're going to be doing more and more and more and more of this. Who Aim says he has Horton way higher. Hulk says big board rankings like X's for me. I'd listen to another 3 hours. Maybe we'll do a part 2 of this after we get the rankings out. Steve, okay, here's Steve's rankings. What do we need to move higher or lower? We got AJ Hernandez in here. Good to see you. Love the content.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's Peanut Punch.
Oh, it's Peanut Punch. Okay. Hey, Peanut Punch. Great to see you. Love the content. Let's draft. Absolutely. We are ready. And yeah, big board rankings are like Christmas. So maybe after Steve's rankings come out and the big boards dropped, we'll do another show like this where it's like, okay, and maybe get your feedback. He's too high, he's too low, and get some feedback, because it's going to be so fluid those first couple days and weeks. Kelly said, good to see you, Kelly. Great stream. Now go take care of your dog. Yes, I definitely need to do that. So let's wrap this up, and then we will get to a part 2 of this stream once Steve's rankings are up, which will be soon. And again, those are going to be for Substack subs only. So please, we'll put out like a free article of his initial rankings, but to get his updated rankings and the rankings that you can download and use on the CSV, you have to sub, link in the description, only $34.99 for an entire year, $10 a month. This was my medicine for best ball withdrawals, music to my ears. Who Haynes is ready to draft, but would like to wait till after the Super Bowl. Oh, that's right. I forgot about the Super Bowl drafters, but we appreciate all the compliments. You guys are great. We appreciate you. We will be here all best ball season long. We'll still wrap up in-season content, which is going to be great. We're going to try to kick ass on underdog drafts, on DFS, on bets this weekend. So stay tuned to that here on the channel, in Substack, in Discord. But let's get a bunch of people on Discord, our Substack, and just crush it and have fun together, because everybody, you guys are pumping me up. You're keeping me awake after I was on shows this morning. Now I'm need something to keep my eyeballs open here to get through this. But I love talking about with you guys. You guys are feeding our energy. So thank you to all of you. I think we covered receivers pretty good. Again, we're going to do a part 2 to this to really hammer home who's too high, who's too low, and go through Steve's first run of rankings. So tight ends, me, again, I've already explained I'm a late round tight end girl. So as much as I love and can make a case for every single one of these tight ends outside of Kyle Pitts not knowing where he's going to be, I'll probably be lower than 8%, lower than the field, though I do love Warren and Loveland. I might be a little higher there, and love their teams and coordinators and coaches and stuff. Who else is too high, too low for you? You know me, I'm going to live in this 90s to 200 area and get 3. So who is too high or too low for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just in general, the top 3 off the bat, we know the upside McBride has, but questions at coach, questions at quarterback. As I mentioned before, it's not just the Kyler Murray to Jacoby Brissett that helped Trey McBride and the fact that the coaching staff features tight ends. It was also the fact they lost James Conner, they lost Trey Benson, they lost Marvin Harrison Jr. for stretches. So Trey McBride just saw a massive target role. Now there is 2 wide receivers, Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison there. If they actually have some semblance of a running game, I don't know if their quarterback's throwing the ball 45 times a game. So that is key. Same with Brock Bowers, though he probably is gaining quite the quarterback upgrade in Mendoza. We need to see what the offensive system is, and still rookie. And then Kyle Pitts, even in Atlanta, I don't think he's worth 41. Now, if he gets some incredible landing spot, then maybe you could talk me into it. But right now, Kyle Pitts, I think, is just way too high with the unknown of where he's going to be. Yes, he has the upside for a 40-point game, but he also has upside for 3 points. Just the way that it is. And then we go right down to, you mentioned the 2 rookies that you feel good about, but then another rookie, Harold Fannin, absolute stud, no question about it.
Second year, yeah.
And no Njoku. But quarterback play. It's just not, the upside is not there to take in top 70. If he was going 115, okay, maybe I'm in on Harold Fannin, but he's going way higher than David Njoku went last year, and that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
and the Browns are in a worse situation. They have no Joe Flacco to even start the year. So, yeah.
Let me just interrupt you real quick. First of all, again, thanks to all the thank yous in here, and that we've been the medicine for the best ball itch. We are happy to hear that. Tim H says, "Is there a link to Discord?" I dropped it, and 2 people already joined, including Tim H. So thank you. That's the whole. We're going to start putting in all our shows, putting in all our articles. And again, some articles are free, most are behind a paywall, but for Substack, again, link in the description. But I will put out the Discord link more because we have good conversations there. We just need more people to get in with us, talk with us, and join us this best ball season, having some great conversations. So I'm glad just by dropping this link. So if you're watching this on replay, hit this. I'll be sure to put it in the description. And if you're watching this live, hit this link like Tim and another person did, and join us in Discord. We really appreciate it. It's just Tim just joined, excited to join. Omar Cooper is unranked. Any thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, the Indiana's other receiver. I think he needs a late third, early 4th round type draft pick. I will mix him in some. I want to see his combine and want to see some of that, but really good yards after the catch guy. So I think he's the whole host of receivers that I'm going to want a little piece of here or there, and you get lucky and it's Pat Bryant, or maybe it's a bust.
Okay, let's wrap up here. 2nd year guys, I like them. It's high, but I'll probably be with the field. Kyle Pitts, no, I'm a mid to late round tight end girl. You talked about Fannin being a little high. Kincaid still feels a little high to me, but we'll see who the offensive system is. Kraft, want to hear his reports coming back from injury. We saw how he could be a demon, so I assume you're in on that, and you probably think Laporte is too low if you like the coach situation. I think
Laporte is probably too low. Same with Kraft, assuming his
stuff's coming full circle. It was like we were so high on Laporta when he was in the hundreds, or 18th, moved up to like 12th round in his first rookie year. Then we got off of him last year, too high, and then or the last 2 years, and then now we're back. So I'm with you there. What about this mid-round range, which is the range is my favorite? Strange, Goddard, Gadsden, Sadiq, who I know you like, Andrews, Kittle, Ferguson's my favorite, 143. He's Dak's guy. He is Dak's guy, unless they draft somebody else, which we won't know during this time frame. He's Dak's guy. So I absolutely love Ferguson. Way too low for me at 143. Anyone else, big stands in this middle range? Like you said, it gets really thin after Dalton Schultz. So who do you want to take advantage of in this middle range?
Yeah, Goddard might be a little too high. I don't think he's matching the 11 touchdowns again. He's a free agent. I assume he's back. I think Philly's going to want to bring him back, but so there's some risk there. So I think he's probably a little too high right now for me. I roughly like where Strange and Gadsden are at. I think Andrews is pretty interesting. I'm assuming likely moves on, and I know it wasn't a good run out, but Lamar wasn't playing well. There's just a lot going wrong for the Ravens down the stretch if they gave Andrews contract. So I think we're getting a guy who up to last year was just smashing as a top 5 tight end per game. I think that's fine. Like you said, Ferguson, I think is great. Hunter Henry, I think is pretty good. Kittle, probably not healthy to start the year, but in 3 tight end builds, or maybe even big board, a 4 tight end build, not terrible. AJ Barner, I think, is very interesting. I know Elijah Arroyo's there, but Barner really showed a lot this year. I think he gets more targets. He only got 68 targets last year. That's insane. I think he'll get more going forward. He definitely needs to earn them. And as I said earlier, like Dalton Schultz is about where I feel the bottom, 100 targets for Schultz. Probably that goes down, but I think even if it goes down, he can pay off that ADP.
Yeah, and like you said, then it's really just seeing the situation. watching free agency, right? Like where does likely land, do the Rams thin out where you want to then be interested in the Ferguson Parkinsons? I think that's fine to make stands. Juwan Johnson, we already talked about being higher. So we already covered a lot of this. Some of the rookies you can take flyers on. So I think we covered this pretty good as far as kind of higher or lower. I'm still going to live in this I'm probably going to sprinkle like Loveland, Warren, a little sprinkle Fannin, but I'm going to live in the, as long as Kraft, Laporta, through like that Dalton Schultz range, I'm going to have a lot, and then at least two, and then tack maybe a Juwan Johnson type.
Yeah, Juwan Johnson, Theo Johnson, same as last year. They were free last year, and they're still way too. They're too low right now.
Yeah. Just when I thought I'd be on Kittle, he pulls me right back in. Yeah, I mean, they're coming back from these Achilles tears faster and faster. His was, I think, pretty clean. He did an interview about it, said everything went very well. And so, keep an eye on obviously his recovery, but like, I understand he's older, but like, he's going to be a guy that retires with the 49ers and just, has such a connection with Purdy. And he's like, literally is like the team, the aura of the team. So, I think
the other thing is like, it's just touchdowns. Like he's always been relying on touchdowns, and they love him in the red zone. And even if he misses the first month, he could just be a massive touchdown guy.
Yeah. All right, Steve, we've gone 3 hours and 15 minutes. It's been a blast. I got to take care of the dog, as Kelly reminded me to. It's been fun. We're just scratching the itch, folks. We're just getting started. Steve and I will be working on rankings. Certainly Steve's will probably come out first. And so we can do a show after that, like a post-ranking show. We'll start big board live drafts, probably Sunday or Monday, so we will be in the streets with you, pretty much best ball content every single day here on the channel. And again, link in the description, you'll have access to all of our rankings and CSV files, which will be very key as updates are constantly happening. So this has been a lot of fun, but we're just scratching the surface of the 2026 best ball season. We can't wait to get back in it with you guys here. I'm glad this was a fun first show to scratch the itch. Again, stay tuned on Substack Discord for content this weekend and 2 betting shows tomorrow, content for the championship, the conference championships on Sunday. We'll have everything for bets, DFS, Underdog dailies in Substack Discord and here on YouTube. Again, 2 shows tomorrow at 4 and 10 p.m. I think that covers all the reminders. But yeah, again, stick with us for best ball big board season. We are excited to kick it off. Any other final thoughts for the people, Steve? And appreciate all you giving the appreciation. Best ball Q, best ball cabal, everybody in here. We certainly appreciate you. We couldn't do this without you guys. So.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you all. And we will be, like you said, really kicking it off next week with a bunch of drafts.
Yeah, look for Steve's rookie article tomorrow. Look for Steve's ranking hopefully later this weekend. We'll see you in the streets very soon, hopefully. And we'll be back on the channel tomorrow at 4 p.m. With Prop Party. So come join the Prop Party tomorrow. Get ready for Conference Champion Sunday. But thanks again for Steve. I'm Meg. We'll see you next time.
Fanspeak, where the plan runs deep. The team grind hard, don't eat, don't sleep. From best ball dreams to DFS streaks, they help you print money every single week. Fanspeak. No cap, no gimmicks, we breaking limits. NFL bets, yeah, we live this business. Meg and Steve, that OG vision. Draft room killers on a lifelong mission. More stress to the Sunday spread. Fanspeak's that voice that's inside your head. Best ball, DFS, NFL bets. They built it brick by brick, no regrets. Fanspeak team.